I'm going to call the meeting to order. We can stand and salute the flag, please. United States of America, to the republic for which it stands. Thank you.
Time's 8 o'clock, so let's go.
Time's October 20th. I'll do my best. Yeah, I'll do my best. We have a roll call, please.
Dr. Bohannon,
Present.
Mr. Hollinger,
Present.
Mr. Hewitt, Mr. Johnson,
Present.
Mr. Rizzo, here, Mr. Rush,
Ready.
Mr. Tiedemann,
Here.
Mr. Wark.
Here.
And Dr. Duncan.
Here, thank
Have a
you.
quorum.
Compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act.
Yeah, we changed our regulations. We've got a new one, so pardon me if got some big words in here. In accordance with the Senator Byron M. Bayer Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 et sequentia. Notice of this meeting was filed with the Secretary of the State and posted on the New Jersey Fish and Wildlife website on April 29, 2026.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes in the March meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Anybody have any comment? Any additions, omissions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Do we have any public comment? Oh, I think we need public.
We have one.
You get a big.
Any public comment for things that aren't on our agenda for this evening? Okay, thank you. Jeff?
Yes, good evening, Council. Good to see you all. So next on our agenda, the numbering is out of order, but it's handout number 15 for you. Tonight, we have some members of the US EPA here. You'll recall that about a year ago, they came looking for guidance on selecting potential new sites for the historic area remediation site. That location was reaching capacity. They're looking for new areas, potential new areas for disposals. They've gone through that whole process and they've selected a site and they're here to give us an update tonight. So we have Julia Persley. We have a presentation, but you have copies of the slides as handout 15. Julia and Nick Russell are both here with US EPA. So I'm going to turn it over to them to go through their presentation. And so Julia or Nick, you can share, or if you'd like, I have a version here, we can share that.
I'll try to share with the present in Teams.
Okay.
Does Barney get back?
So Pat, actually turn that off for a second, let her share.
Oh, right back.
Or just minimize.
For the dumping buoy.
Yeah. For maps. I think.
Yeah, it is dumping.
They got a highway up here and they got a dumping ground here.
Is that working, Julia? We're not seeing it yet.
Let me know if this works.
We did the.
So yeah, whenever
Okay.
you're
Okay, great. Yeah, you can see it. Good. Yeah. So Jeff said, first, thanks for having us at your meeting. I'm Julia Persley. I work in the dredging, sediments, and ocean section for EPA Region 2. And I'm here along with Nick Russell, who will present some of the slides later. And Pat Petchko is also on the line, and she was one of the people who presented to you previously with our manager, Mark Reese, who was unable to attend tonight because he's away. And so first, we'll just kind of refresh your memory about the HARs and what was discussed at the last meeting, and provide you an update is the main thing to that we're in where we are in this process of modifying the HARs site designation, and then we'll focus on our plans for fish monitoring at the HARs, and we'll have time for questions and discussion. So here's a map showing the location of the HARs. which was designated in 1997, with the goal of covering bottom impacted by historic dumping with at least 1 meter of material meeting new standards for remediation. These standards were updated again after review to become more strict in 2002. And the Army Corps of Engineers and EPA oversee all project testing for material going to the site and placement of that material at the site. We have a strong history of enforcement of any violations. And EPA and Army Corps also fund monitoring every year for at the HARS, including bathymetry monitoring, and then also EPA-led ocean surveys where we collect sediment samples and worm tissue samples typically. And the site is also supported by a technical stakeholder group called the Scientific Review Panel, or the SRP, and we'll talk about that more at the end. So these maps show change in bathymetry since the site designation, with the 1998 right after the site designation on the left, and then last year's bathymetry on the right. So there's been, there's a slight decrease in depth due to placing this 1 meter of material, but you'll also see these relief features that are kind of these little bumps around the margins of the site, which are from placement of deepening material, like including rocks, really dense clay, and till and gravelly material. Those placements along the edge were due to dilution requirements that this material will sink straight down when it's dropped, so we'll know it stays within the margin of the site. So it was chosen to be placed along those edges. But because of that, we sort of inadvertently created some new relief features within the site that now, based on our observations on surveys, we know are used as habitat for encrusting organisms and fish, and they're used by fishermen too. We'll see fishing boats lined up kind of along some of these linear rock features when we're out. So the last time Pat and Mark spoke to this group, it was because the remaining capacity at the HARS under the original site designation was running out, and there's even less capacity now. So the map on the left shows a green layer of remediation material of the depth change of it over at least 1 meter since the site designation, and then on the right, it's kind of the inverse of that, showing remaining remediation capacity. The only areas where it also shows there's some depth limitations. So there's some areas where we can't place remediation material due to those depth limitations. So in 2023, Army Corps asked EPA to look for options for continued ocean management of dredge material. And so that's what we presented last time, these different alternatives that were considered, including, finding a new site somewhere else in the bight that needed remediation due to some other historic dumping impact or other historic impact, or designating a new site somewhere else that we would only place deepening material to create these fish habitat features, or modifying the site designation to continue using this site. And so we had public comment period, and thank you for anyone in this group that submitted comments. And the latest update is that based on those comments and other analyses, EPA is no longer considering designating any new site at this time. Yes, Raymond, do you have a question?
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to put my hand up for when you're done.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. We have a
Actually,
bit more
Julia,
to, yeah,
We do
sure.
have a question here at council.
Just a quick question on the, if you picture the HARS kind of as a U shape, there's that area that's not part of the priority restoration area, kind of in the middle of the U.
Right.
Is that depth limited now? Is that why that's not being considered
Yeah,
to be added
so-
to the HARS?
Yeah, so that site, that area you can see on the bathymetry is more shallow, and so that's always been considered a no, called the no discharge zone and a buffer zone. Um, so we didn't consider adding that just because of the Coast Guard depth limitations.
Okay, thank you.
We looked at going to the east and decided against that because the samples we found showed, that it wasn't in need of remediation. But yeah, so there were different alternatives considered, but we are at this point staying within the existing boundaries of the site. And the preferred alternative we're moving forward with is to modify the existing HARS designation to allow for continued management of dredge material. And there would be no changes to the boundaries and no changes to the standards we have already. And there'd be an upcoming public comment period where these different documents associated with this preferred alternative will be available as draft documents to review. And that'll be hopefully soon, but sometime in the next few months. And we'll, let this group know. So here are the kind of details of this preferred alternative. So you can see in this figure now, this area is in the center is the no discharge zone. But yeah, there's the first detail is a more minor one, but it would be to remove 2 of the 4 shipwreck buffer zones that were included in the original site designation because of repeated survey data showing us that there's at least currently no shipwrecks within those buffer zones. And that would allow for some more flexibility. The main parts of the modifications would be to authorize continued placement of dredge material meeting the current HARS standards in the 2, we call them priority remediation areas, or PRAs, but these 2 boxes that are shaded in brown, which are in the deepest area of the HARS, up here on the northeast corner. And then the modification would authorize placement of native dredge material for the purpose of constructing habitat features in the remainder of the HARS where following completion of remediation. So that's the areas shaded in green. So these fish habitat features that we're talking about would be created using only native materials. So there's an upcoming deepening project that the timeline is shifting on a little bit, but it'll be a couple years out. But there will be a fair amount of rock that will go to artificial reef programs, but some of that, won't be able to be matched to an artificial reef project and will be going to the HARS. There'll be this glacial till that's more of like a cobbly gravel and this dense clay materials that'll also be going to the HARS. And then there could also, these features could also be created using sand when there's also not, not a project that matches up for sand and it ends up going to the HARS. So these are the only materials that would be eligible for use in constructing these features. And we thought of doing this because there have been these previous studies that have demonstrated fish using these deepening materials in the HARS. And we've, observed that this is a screenshot from an ROV, like a remotely operated vehicle with video on a survey we did in 2020. And we could see, a lot of encrusting organisms on these rocks and a lot of fish in and around the rock features, just anecdotally. These features, in some ways, are different than an artificial reef because there is a management and monitoring plan for the site that's required by law. So we will be going out and monitoring these features as a part of monitoring the site. And we'd be using adaptive management. So we'd be collecting data and analyzing it and seeing how different mixes of material types or different slopes on these features are functioning and could modify the features based on that data. And we'll also be getting input from members of the scientific review panel that includes Rutgers and NOAA fisheries researchers. So now Nick's going to talk about the monitoring plan that we're working on for the modified new site. Oh, same site modified.
Thanks, Julia. Yeah, we're gonna go over sort of the monitoring efforts that are taking shape. Important to note, as Julia said, that we're required to monitor by law, and so we're going to be continuing doing the normal monitoring of the sediment and benthic organisms that we have been doing, and we'll continue to do that in addition to introducing sort of this fish monitoring component for the habitat feature areas in the preferred alternative. That's going to initially include several seasons of baseline data collection. And we've got a couple of methods that we're, already have identified for that. The first being baited remote underwater video, or BRUVs, which I'll go into a little bit more detail on that, as well as environmental eDNA, which we have sort of already explored in a pilot study, and we're going to talk about a little bit in detail. But those two methods initially we've identified as really good complementary monitoring techniques to get baseline information about different habitat areas within the HARS. And then in the future, we also are going to contemplate other techniques that can answer more specific questions about a specific feature. And for that, we're considering things like acoustic telemetry and putting out acoustic receivers and tagging species of interest, and also remotely operated vehicles, as well as potentially fish traps. But for now, we're really focused on getting a baseline information on the area that we're most interested in. And all those management decisions are going to play out over the next couple of years. This season, in the fall, we're planning on going out with the baited remote underwater video and the environmental DNA, but the scientific review panel is going to be helping drive sort of some of those decisions that we make. Next slide, please. And so, part of that is also identifying what we already know is, in terms of key benthic species that are out at the HARS that we know are, common commercial and recreational species. We looked at the DEP's ocean stock assessment has a sector for their trawls that goes, overlaps and isn't adjacent to the HARS. And we've also looked at all the NOAA recreational and commercial landings, as well as looking at some of the more, qualitative information for recreational landings. And, some of the prime fishing grounds in and around there, like 17 fathoms and mudhole and stuff. But, this is a short list of species that we're particularly interested because they're using the bottom habitat throughout multiple seasons of the year. Striped bass is on here. Obviously, they're going to be foraging around that area and are more pelagic, but we also know that they're being targeted out there recreationally a lot. So these are some of the species that we're interested in keeping track of as time goes by. Next slide, please.
So I'm actually going to talk about this one again. So our first attempt at monitoring fish at the HARS was a pilot study, collecting these eDNA samples in October 2024. So a little before we met with you last time, but we didn't have any data then. We collected samples from 24 stations that were across these different bottom types of either muddy bottom or a sand flat bottom or sand shoal, more elevated rock reef, clay mound, that were stations within the HARS and surrounding the HARS, because at that point we were still interested in these other areas. In total, we detected 56 fish taxa, and that included 12 out of the 13 fish that were caught in the OSAP trawl for the sector containing the HARS in the same time period. So this showed us that this method is detecting the fish that are in the area. And the way we collect these samples is just a water sample collected near the bottom, and then that's filtered, and this little filter is then sent to a lab, and the lab extracts DNA from that filter, and amplifies it and looks for fish DNA. And yeah, so we were happy with how that worked. I think our slides disappeared. I'll get them back.
Government didn't pay the bill. Yeah, government didn't pay
Sorry
the bill.
about that.
I'm in.
Not seeing them yet, but again, we have them here if you'd like us to just pull them up.
You want me to try and pull them up, Jules?
I think it should work now. I'm not sure what happened before. Yeah, so based on that, we're going to continue using the eDNA, but and use that for baseline monitoring to assess just what fish are in the area. But we want to collect samples in other seasons also. So this was in the fall, and we're going to do this again in the fall this year, but we'll start collecting also in June next year. Nick, you ready for Bruvs?
Yeah, and we'll pair that eDNA in the fall with the baited remote underwater video stations that we're gonna deploy. I'm sure many of you are familiar, but they're basically a frame that drops down for about an hour with dual camera setup, lights, with a set distance to a bait bag. You can see in the bottom right, we got a lot of dogfish hanging out around this image, but we'll do deployments across multiple bottom types, and over multiple seasons starting this fall. We're going to start using this coupled with the eDNA. We're hoping to get a good picture of sort of different habitat types to answer kind of broad comparisons between areas, and keep that going through multiple seasons. Next slide, please. So this layout, a lot going on here, but basically in the bottom left corner, we've got you can see that little red box that's around the western sort of half of the HARS, and that's the area that you see in the center of the screen. We just put shapes around some of the areas that we've identified as having more discrete habitat areas. So on the top left, we've got rock reef with an image paired there, and then the oval to the right is an extent of sand wave habitat. We have a till and cobble area just south of that. some silty sand in the center of PRA2, and then towards the bottom of this continuous rock feature, there's an area where it transitions into clay. And so the idea is to make multiple deployments of the baited remote underwater video in sequence over a 2-day deployment and start to get generating data from sort of these different areas that we can then in the future over multiple seasons, once we have an idea of how much precision we have in distinguishing between sand versus non-sand, or if we can really see a difference between the rock area or the clay area, start to make some decisions with the SRP scientific review panel about how to iterate on this over time, and then see if there's specific questions that folks on the SRP or that we think are important to answer using another technique like acoustic telemetry, for example. If we start to see certain patterns in terms of seasonal residents over a period of time for BSB or fluke or any of the other key species. Next slide.
Yeah, so how, like Nick said, we go over our monitoring data with the scientific review panel. So typically there are about 2 meetings per year. One is to discuss, we typically do 1 survey a year at the site. So we would have a meeting, discussing the plans for the upcoming survey, and then we have a meeting to go over the results from the most recent survey. And the members on this panel are from New Jersey, DEP, New York State, DEC, New York City, the Port Authority. We try to get some university researchers. Right now we have someone from Rutgers who attends regularly, and other members from stakeholder groups. And then at our after this monitoring that we have presented happens on our fall survey, sometime in the winter, we will have some fish monitoring data to share. So at that point, we would be interested in involvement from this group. And so that's sort of our question to pose for all of you is, how would you like to be included in the future? Would you like us to keep coming out and sharing with you? Would you like to be members on the SRP in the future, or would there be just any thoughts you have on that? So that's what we have for you guys, and we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Julia and Nick. Appreciate it. We're going to start. I know, Ray, you've got your hand up. We're going to start here at the table with the council. Eleanor, you've got one, and John, I see you've got one as well.
Thanks for presenting this today, but my question is, for the monitoring of the site, are you going to be monitoring contaminants from the sediment that's being dumped at the site, or are you going to be monitoring levels there to see if there's any changes
Yeah, we do that annually.
annually?
Yeah,
And then-
yeah, and so any project that's going out, there's testing of that material prior to dredging, and we see that data. And then we go out and collect sediment samples from the site, from areas where material's been placed. And we also sieve through that material and collect worms and have that worm tissue analyzed for contaminants. And we monitor those levels. Yeah.
Are you going to do anything with the fish species that are going to be inhabiting those areas for contaminants?
At this point, we have not, but that's a good question.
Because we would be interested, especially if you do find contaminants. It would be good to know if it's getting into the fish species, because fishermen eat them. I mean, public
Yeah,
eats them.
so I just in reference to that, the cutoff values we have and like whether we decide material is allowed to go out or not is all based on the numbers are all based on bioaccumulation models, considering human health risk that were all established at the time of the site designation and modified since then.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Mhm.
John, and then.
Yeah,
More.
a comment and then two questions for the eDNA. As you're planning it, Dr. Jason Adolph at Monmouth University has been doing extensive eDNA sampling at all of the, I guess they're former wind farm areas. So that I think you should reach out with him. That would give you a good point of comparison with other locations in the Bight compared to
There's 40 patients.
to this area.
Yeah, so our eDNA pilot study, we used the NOAA Milford lab and also like a Army Corps lab that does research to analyze those samples. But this year we're having contractors
Yeah.
do that,
But-
and they're actually sending the samples to Monmouth for
Oh, okay. Yeah,
analysis.
'cause,
So they'll
good,
be,
okay.
exactly the same lab methods.
Yeah, perfect.
And
So
yeah, well, we could reach out to him to
that's
to
good.
discuss
So then
comparison.
the two quick questions. I guess it'll be in the draft EA, but if this plan is approved, how many years do you foresee this accommodating in terms of harbor material?
Pat, do you want to answer that? I can if it's okay, but
Sure, I can answer that. It really, it's funny because every year the Corps gets a budget or they get a budget and they plan a few years out. So it really depends on what the Corps does. Their harbor deepening project, I think, is estimated to generate about 32 million cubic yards of material. We have seen sort of a drop off in maintenance. The harbor deepening is not going to be as extensive as the last time. It's only going it's going up to Port Newark, Port Elizabeth, but it's certainly projected to be at least 20 years. I think I estimated in 20 years that we would generate about, what was my number? 35 million cubic yards of material that's with the deepening, that's with an anchorage deepening, harbor improvements, private improvements, and all of the maintenance muds, which would go into 6 and 9. You'll see in the EA that our colleague Lindsay Adamczyk has done and I think Nick and Julia have been involved in Jordan Wellness in estimating how much material can go in that area, but we've got at least 20 years. We had projected the HARS would be filled up in about 10 to 15, and we've had 30 years because of the compaction factor. We don't lose material from it, but there's a lot of compaction that goes on as you layer it. So we've estimated at least 20 years.
Okay, great. And then maybe just for everybody's benefit, if material is not suitable for the HARS, are you still using alternatives like the mine reclamation and decontamination technologies for that material?
Yes, and you'll see that briefly included in the EA. It's about $91 a cubic yard for the least. If you have very clean material and you're taking it upland and you're going to use it as landfill cover, you're at about $92 a cubic yard compared to, I think it's about 18 for ocean disposal. If you've got a high-end project, there's something recently that's failed in New Jersey, in the Hudson, that I think has to be treated. I think they're looking at something around $200 to $212 a cubic yard for disposal. So it increases the project cost significantly. But again, the bulk of the material that we expect for the next 20 years will be these native materials, particularly sand. If the sand does have to go to the HARS, I think there's something like 22 million cubic yards of it. So that's, that reduced cost of $18 versus, a minimum of $92.
Thank you.
Got Kevin and then Walt. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah,
No, I've done a lot of this work for quite a while. I like your survey methods. I think they're kind of the best really that we have right now. But my question is, have you selected any control areas, so you can do any kind of, is there any similar control areas that you can check and see fish movement, or, or is there more there, less there? Is that been anything that you've thought about? Any control stations, or are you just going to sample the HARs?
We've definitely thought of it, but we aren't sure. So we're just starting with the fish monitoring, but it's a little hard to find a to decide, what would be a control area. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
but yeah, that's
even if
definitely
you
something
were-
like we would be discussing with the scientific
okay.
review
Science
panel.
team, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
suggest that,
Mhm.
really, I mean, it's great what you're doing, right? I mean, you're gonna monitor, you're gonna collect data, that's beautiful. But we need to, I mean, at least if you had some kind of control area, you'd have something to compare to. And even if that's environmental standards, right, with the fish themselves, to test them, if you had some open bottom, in the area, right, control stations. And so I would think that would be a good idea, but thanks for your presentation.
So by open bottom, you mean sandy, as
Yes.
opposed to, because we've got the baseline where we've already got the relief.
Well,
in the
you have-
parks. Yeah.
Right, sounds like you have some sandy stations. You may want to find a structure station. I know there's rocks up there. I fished commercially. So I know you may find some similar habitat close by that you can, I think if there was time and money and enough thought went in it, I think you could probably, and you may see no differences. You may see more fish on the HARs, but it'd be good to know, what exactly it goes on there.
Yeah, we kind of tried that with our pilot study for the eDNA. Like some of those stations outside the HARs were on artificial reefs, like off of Sandy Hook, and in like muddy areas in the canyon east of the HARs. But we couldn't really see. Basically what we found with the eDNA was, it's detecting fish in the general area, but it's not like that localized.
No, but I mean, for the brubs,
Yeah,
I
for
think
the
it'd be
brubs.
relative for the
Mhm.
brubs, and the acoustic monitoring, right, would tell you if sharks are utilizing a TAC transmitter, a lot of sharks. It would tell you if the sharks are using the HARs, or if they're staying or they go by, there's just some data there is some questions of science you could answer with that, if that's something that
Mhm.
you had the time, money, and, the want to do it. So I just was curious if that was ever discussed, in your
Yeah,
your
no,
work.
I think that's fair. I think we're kind of the contractors we're working with, and the fisheries researchers are pretty confident the bruvs will work, but we see
They
that
will.
as
I
a
built those
pilot
grubs
thing.
exactly like you got.
Yeah,
And
look
fished
like
them
that. Okay.
a lot. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that-
we're a little concerned about visibility, but
that's exactly right. That'll be your issue, is visibility. But some days it'll be all right. Some days it won't. So I think is what you'll find. But your bruv looks exactly like the ones I made. It's duplicate. It looks great. So I think you'll have good success with that, as long, again, as if you have the clarity. So, but good luck.
thanks.
Well, yeah, I believe my question was answered. The main question I had was that this site, I'm glad to see that there is no new site, but I'm glad that this site will be good for 20 years.
At least 20 years.
Oh, that's good news.
I've been doing this for 40 years. So, and the HARS has been around for 30. When we projected the HARS, like I said, I was probably thinking 10 to 15 to 20. We're at 27, 30, almost 30 years. Yeah, we'll be at 29 years, and we still have 7 million cubic yards of capacity or something. We were chatting about that today for remediation materials. And this will be, so we've still got that left, plus whatever we're going to put in as fish habitat creation and the maintenance muds into that 6 and 9. So I'm pretty confident I'll be dead by the time this site runs out. So
That's not funny, guys.
Just the way you put it, it's funny, but the main reason for the longevity of it is due to compaction of the materials.
And and just the sheer size, I think it's just a big site. You know, when you put this down, it literally, you know, the lift is only, you know, inches for each project that goes down. I mean, obviously a 1,000,000 cubic yard project has a larger lift, yeah, than that. You know, and hopefully the Corps, you know, just to, and this is sort of off track, but the Corps has got a mandate to use dredge material beneficially. 70% of their material beneficially. So they are going to be looking at a lot of beneficial use, and we're hoping to reduce the amount of material going to the HARs. I'm not optimistic. Like I said, I've been doing this 40 years here and in Long Island Sound, and I really haven't seen, you know, a viable alternative. But the Corps has a mandate to start to use this, and I think they're serious about it. Finally, we've got sea level rise. We're starting to look at other alternatives, you know, thin layer spreading, marsh restoration, things like that in harbor habitat creation. Nick's been doing some of that, and I think that's going to drive this number down too, the actual amounts that go out there. Hopefully.
That's excellent, and I'm very happy. And I think in 27 years, the majority of us will be gone too. So you won't be alone in being gone. But I appreciate, and I think speaking for myself, but not for the council, but I really appreciate the involvement level that we've been brought into this, and I would definitely like this to continue.
Yeah, I think Julia's point of getting involved in the SRP, you know, the technical end of this is, you know, we're really going to be depending on the fishing community and the commercial fisheries and the recreational fisheries to help us with this. So Julia, you can weigh in more on that. Nick, that's your.
But yeah, I mean, I think we'd like you to think about just, you know, does this work well for us to present to you directly? Or do you know, would you like to be in the conversations with the, you know, representatives from these other agencies when we have SRP meetings, once we have fish data to talk about? Just, you don't have to decide right now, but to contact us and, you know, think about it.
It's not a huge commitment twice a year, so.
And
And it would.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have one public question online. You okay with that?
Yep.
Ray, go ahead. You want to pose your question?
Thanks very much. And Pat, by the way, first of all, you folks are all old. I am not, because I'm going to be alive when this thing shuts down. But Pat, if you were involved 40 years ago, then you remember going all the way back to Lillian Barone and Port
Yes.
Authority and everything. I
remember
yeah.
Lillian Liberty.
Yeah. I was at that meeting at the governor's office the day that
Yeah.
the World Trade Center was bombed in '93. We were discussing the HARs at that time. That was the nature of that meeting.
Right.
My main reason for wanting to intervene is simply to say that much like in the 90s where we were involved, and when I say we, I'm talking the for-hire fleet that knew this bottom very, very well, that you include someone from the for-hire industry who is familiar with this area. I can get you folks from New York or New Jersey, it doesn't matter. And it's very challenging, but I also ask that if there is a meeting of the SRP that involves interactions relating to where this stuff will be disposed of, that they be given an opportunity to have a day or a time where they can make it. Thirdly, there was in the old days, there were some rocks north of this. South of, on the south side of this. So there is still some historic stuff that was around there. And the places that were originally chosen to drop did not have that. So I just asked that these folks be given an opportunity through one chosen or two chosen persons within the for-hire industry who gets involved in these fisheries to be involved in the process with the SRP or whoever is the appropriate entity with which they would share information and make sure that any expansion of this doesn't adversely impact an area that would be otherwise considered from a fisherman standpoint a critical fisheries habitat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've got some names or you want to put them in contact with Julia, that would be great, because they're usually hard to get in touch with. We've got the boat name or the marina name, but not a point of contact. That's always That's always a little harder for us, so that would be
We'll,
great.
we'll do. And I have plenty of folks I can put you in touch with. And what I'll do is I'll just reach out for someone from the division Division of Fish and Wildlife to get that out to you folks. Thank you.
Yeah, Ray, this is Jeff. Go ahead and send it to me and I'll
Hey,
make sure
Jeff.
that, Army Corps, or excuse me, EPA gets it. So just shoot it to me.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Anything else from council?
Just, if you could also maybe let Jeff know, you have kind of a tentative summer time for that meeting. If you could give Jeff some, time to let us know when that meeting is, I personally would like to try to get to that next meeting.
Yeah, not to speak for EPA, but I will continue to maintain contact with them. If anyone's interested in getting on the SRP, again, send me your name, I'll get it to them. Julia, whenever the EA is ready, if you want to send it to me, I'll make sure these guys get it. We can even probably do a blast to more of our advisors to make sure that it's getting, distributed and hopefully you get comments that you're looking for. So yeah, please feel free to use me or my staff as intermediaries between council and EPA. But yes, if you could just keep us in the loop, I'll make sure that it gets distributed.
And Jeff, we can add people directly to our mailing list too. We've got a mailing list of about 1,300 that we would be happy to augment and also get, direct.
Okay, so I'm not going to put anyone on the spot
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah.
I'll connect with council and we'll get names for you. And if anyone's interested on the SRP, and we'll keep in touch.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, that sounds great. And we'll let you know about any upcoming meetings and when we're ready for public comment period.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much.
Yes. Julia, Pat, Nick, thanks so much for coming out. And yeah, I'll touch base, probably not tomorrow, but probably early next week.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks
All
for
right.
coming out.
Thanks, folks. Bye.
Enforcement report?
Yeah, we're up for the enforcement report, Chris.
Paper.
So I got a couple months of highlights to go through. On February 21st, Lieutenant Petroselli and CPO Raker apprehended a permitted commercial lobster trap vessel in possession of 93 untagged lobster traps. The traps were retrieved from the waters of Federal Lobster Management Area 5, which was also closed to lobster trap fishing during this time. The case was referred to National Marine Fisheries Service Officer for enforcement action. Next, we have CPO Tomlin charged a Sea Isle City-based commercial oyster aquaculture farmer for unlawful possession of oysters in prohibited waters without a permit. The farmer had thousands of oysters tied off to a dock at a local marina. The farmer claimed to have originally removed the oysters from a lease in approved waters for husbandry purposes, but decided it was easier to keep them at his dock instead of returning them to the appropriate area. The offense is punishable by up to 30 days in jail and a monetary fine of up to $3,000. And finally, District 7 officers have been busy conducting striped bass enforcement along the Meriden and Sandy Hook Bays and their tributaries over the past few weeks. The officers have issued over 50 summonses and seized over 60 illegal striped bass that were able to be donated to local food banks. The violators were apprehended all hours of the day and night, with violations including over the limit striped bass, undersized striped bass, oversized striped bass, and failing to register for the saltwater registry program.
Any questions from council? Kevin?
The lobster issue, the lobster pot issue, were those pots being actively fished or was it like a wet storage violation?
To be honest with you, I'm not familiar with that case. Other than this, I do just through the rumor mill, I think they were being actively fished, but I'm not 100% positive.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, because those pots are supposed to be removed, right? Yeah. Thank you.
I just have to say that you had to be beyond busy in District 7.
Oh, yeah.
It was insanity.
Yeah.
I believe Mr. Rizzo was up there. It was fish swimming upside down,
Yeah.
boats running into each other. It was kind of like something I hadn't seen since a derby in years.
Yeah, it's been a while, and
Look
you
like-
know, I wrote that highlight a couple weeks ago, and you could probably double those numbers by today, so.
Look like Jaws, right? Shotguns. and one arrow.
Just about people in kayaks were getting frost. It was it was a real mess.
Paddle boards, picking fish off a paddle board.
Oh,
I never knew that before though. I did. see
Yeah, they
that,
sell them for fishing, all rigged up now.
People constant off of that.
Couple questions. For striped bass issues, were any of them for hire vessels up there? Anybody in,
I don't think there was any for hire issues.
that's a good sign.
Yeah.
First off, and then second, with Blackfish being open for the month of April, did you guys have a lot
There was,
going on there too?
we did have a couple blackfish violations, but nothing compared to what the striped bass was. Excuse me. What I heard, especially from the guys, south, Barnegat and Atlantic City, the hog bite wasn't as good. It didn't seem like in April. My guys in District 7, they saw a decent bite in Shark River and Point Pleasant. Maybe not for some, but some others.
They were in the wrong place.
But there was only a few violations that they had. Part of that is also we had so much activity going on north with the
Yeah.
striped bass, so there's only so much to go around as far as that. But we did have some violations with it. So
Anybody, anything else? Thank you.
thank you. We have Barney online. Barney has a question online.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Just wondering, the aquaculture oysters, were the majority of them over the 1.5 inch size limit?
I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay. All right,
Sorry.
thank you.
A lot of details.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Shellfish Council, Barney.
The direct market season, oyster season opened on April 6th. So far, approximately 12,000 bushel have been harvested. On April 27th, the oyster transplant program started. To date, just under 30 million oysters have been moved for the industry vessels. And that's still ongoing. There's still at least probably another week left. That's all.
Thank you. Walter?
Yeah, just to clear up a discrepancy, I believe at the last meeting, it was said that Senator Kim had commented to our CDC letter and that Senator Kim, there was no response from Senator Kim. It was Senator Booker's chief of staff and Representative Menendez who responded, and they were looking into it.
Okay.
Just a clarification on that.
Thank you. There a Shellfish Bureau report?
Do not have one. I don't see anyone
I don't
online,
think so.
so thinking no.
Hey. Legislative regulatory.
Yeah, so handout number 4 is our usual legislative updates. Again, only showing you the actions that are new since your last meeting. Either a new introduction or new action, something was moved to committee or came out of committee, something like that. Just a couple that I wanted to identify on the front page, A4047. I think we've seen this one before. It's a exemption for the prohibition of having shellfish on Sundays for aquaculture. And then S303 and A4779 are similar. That's requiring, it's a bill requiring the state to have a resident only time period for obtaining your beach buggy permit, your beach access permit. So those are just, I think those were also introduced in the last session, but just never moved. So these are reintroduced in the new session. If you flip the page, federal legislation starts in the middle of page 2. The one I wanted to identify, again, I think we've seen this one before, is top of page 3, S688. It's a bill to, improve enforcement on IUU fishing. So there are others, obviously, but those were the 3 that I thought seemed most germane to this council. If you have questions on any of those, I don't have details, but I can find them. Bob, go ahead.
S303, the first page.
Yep.
there's a mobile sport fishing permit you're getting, you guys are,
So that's the beach buggy permit. So,
okay, all right,
Island Beach State Park, mobile sport fishing, so bring your truck out on the beach.
okay, all right.
So those are the new updates. Handout number 5. You'll recall at our last meeting, I didn't even go through the legislative report because of everything else going on. But Dr. Johnson contacted me a week or so ago, asked about S3423, which was in that handout. It's a bill to allow the use of fish pumps on Menhaden bait boats within state waters. I think it's outside 0.6 miles, but within state waters. And he asked for more information on that. And this was actually something that Jeff Kalin brought to this council.
A while ago.
Wow,
It was farther back than I thought. It was actually back in July of 2020.
quite a while back, yeah.
So I just wanted, Pat asked about it, so I dug back through the records. Handout 5 is what's, so Jeff brought it up, but also we had representatives from Lund's Fisheries here at that meeting. Handout 5 is what they presented to you back in July of 2022. And then the second page of that handout is the revised bill, because again, it was introduced in 2022, didn't pass. It was introduced in 2024, didn't pass. It's been reintroduced in 2026. I did not do a compare documents. This is the new version of the bill. I don't know if it's changed or not, but that was just Pat asked for more information, so that's where that is.
Thank you.
And then handout number 6, this is just an update or for an FYI for folks here. In 2024, the catch of window pane flounder went above the quota. And the way the accountability measures are written, we didn't know it until 2025. So in 2026, we have to do, 2026 is when we take the reduction for the overage in 2024. And so the accountability measure for the window pane flounder fishery is a closure of a relatively large area south of Long Island. It impacts, obviously fishermen from New York, New Jersey. So handout number 6, page 1 is the letter from Garfo to the New England Council saying, we got to do this. And you see at the bottom of page 1, there's some information that's highlighted. That's the window pane flounder information specifically. That extends under the top of page 2. So there will be a closure of this large accountability measure area. And the remainder of that handout is 3 letters, one from Garden State Seafood, one from Fisherman's Dock Co-op, and one from Congressman Van Drew's office, all opposing the closure and requesting new ways of deciding how large the closure should be and how long it's closed. So that's just an FYI, nothing we can do about it, but there is a closure started May 1st of this year. At least through September. September is when they can reconsider whether it should stay closed or if they can shrink the area. But that's just an FYI that there's this relatively large closed area that, but there are several stakeholders from New Jersey who have written in opposition.
I got a question.
Sure.
So they're saying these fish aren't overfished. There's no overfishing of these 2 species, right? But we accidentally went over by 20%. So they want to just shut down a whole area for all.
That is how that, right. And this is a New England Council measure, so I'm not super familiar with it, but I tried to read up on it. And that is how the accountability measure is written. And the letters are saying, so there's a small area or there's a large area. And given X, Y, and Z, they have to select the large area with the option in September to revert to the smaller area. The letters are asking that because we're not overfished and overfishing is not occurring, can we just use the small area? NIMS actually responded at the last New England Council meeting saying, we'll look into it. But for this year, we're stuck. So it's just, again, this is just an FYI, but there has been some pushback and NIMS is actually, or NIMS and New England Council will take it under consideration.
So is there other areas closed also? Or is it just our area?
I think it's just this one large accountability measure area. And I believe, is there a map in the handout?
Chart.
Yeah. Yeah, bottom of.
Yeah, it's up in the corner there, Rockaway.
Right outside Hudson, right outside.
Oh, yeah, I see it. It's pretty large.
Doesn't
Doesn't it, after it meets the criteria for the closure, then it's reviewed and it can be reopened, right?
It has to be
It
closed,
has to be closed immediately due to the amendment.
right? And then they can reevaluate, shoot. Now we're getting to the details that I'm not super familiar with.
It's okay. you
There's
can tell
two
us
criteria that they
yeah.
could have reduced it. It met one, but not the other. So
then
they have to
go
take the
with
large one.
They have to take the larger
But
closure.
they can revisit it in September.
Okay, okay.
I don't know if they'll meet the second criteria in September, but again, the letters are asking, can we loosen restriction 2 so that we would have met it if this ever happens again in the future? Loosen restriction 2 so we just go with the small area.
Yeah, but is that an amendment, modification? Or-
It would be, yeah, it would be, I don't know if it's an amendment or a framework.
That's back in there a while.
Yes. So that's, handouts 4, 5, and 6. That's the legislative, oh, actually, one other, no handout. So back in November, I believe it was, this council voted to not implement the federal regulations for southern New England cod in New Jersey state waters, but asked to get an update on where the feds are in May 1, when their season went into place. The update that I have is that the amendment, the New England Council's amendment has been approved, but only using the old stock structure, so the two stock unit structure. NIMS is working on updating that to the 4 stock unit structure. For now, the moratorium is in place, assuming the 2 stock unit structure. And so everything basically south of Cape Cod is closed for recreational. NIMS is working on approving the new one, so then it will just be the revised southern New England region, which is like south of Vermont. I don't remember exactly where it is, but it's just the southern portion of that 2 stock structure area. So the moratorium is in place, or the 0 possession limit is in place. New York has submitted a proposal to comply with the federal regulations in New York waters, but that proposal has been sitting on their governor's desk for 6 months or so. And I asked today, there's no indication of when that will move. And so, again, you all voted no previously. That's where we stand right now. Ball's in your court. What do you want to do with that information?
Let us know.
I say we leave it.
I agree. I think we leave it for now until we
think
get
that-
further information.
Yep.
I think they're gonna let us know when it's
Sad,
done.
yeah,
Right.
well, sad enough, I don't think it's gonna make a difference
No.
what New Jersey does, and that's the God's honest truth. I mean, it's just beating a dead horse at this point, and it's to close it just for a feel-good measure. I don't see any conservation value, not very, very little, no matter what they say. I mean, I haven't caught a cod in like 3 or 4 years, I mean, it's not even worth talking about really, in state waters especially, I mean, there's some there, but it's just not, I don't know. It's just,
It's a shame.
it is.
Discussed it to death. But
Yeah.
I mean, we remember what it was like and how it is now, and it's like.
I mean,
It's not even.
everybody wants them to come back and wants a fishery again, but I don't know. I don't think any of us will ever see
Yeah.
anything like that. So, I mean, it's just seems like we're kicking the can around, It's my opinion.
So absent a motion to revisit it, our vote would stand.
That's my legislative update.
Thank you.
Think ASMC tonight?
ASFFC, please.
In the meeting, so Jeff and I just pulled together some notes what we found out. So for TOG, the projection suggests that there's a 40 to 40% reduction needed for the New Jersey, New York Bight region.
Boy.
And
Yeah,
there's a
kidding.
50% probability of achieving that target by 2030. There's a motion to continue without recalibrated numbers, but they considered moving the next stock assessment forward to 2028. The PDT is starting to work on some options, and they're also going to allow New York to test out some new commercial tags for striped bass, they did an update on the 2027 benchmark stock assessment. The board approved feedback on a couple items. The first was development of a model that to separate the Chesapeake Bay from the ocean and the Hudson. The board recommended including Delaware Bay with Chesapeake Bay because of recent research of the mixing because of the C&D canal. The board requested a suite of reference points to be developed, including things like status quo and MSY, SPR, some other empirical reference points. Regarding the work group that the board formed in last October at their meeting. The staff was looking for guidance on composition of the work group and how to prioritize tasks. So the board approved development of a steering committee to help prioritize these tasks, and they might set up some smaller groups to work on some issues that come out of those meetings. There'll be a management objectives workshop held in 2027. And finally, for striped bass, there was an update on NOAA's request for feedback on the aquaculture and the EEZ. And they didn't have time to cover that in the meeting. So there was a request for email comments by June to do a draft letter in August. For Menhaden, there were some edits and guidance on the draft addendum on the Chesapeake Bay cap for the PDT. And there was an update from the TC on environmental effects on Menhaden and other species. For the horseshoe crab, there was an update from the stakeholder workshop on suggested changes to the ARM model. For coastal sharks, NOAA proposed some new regulations. Some of those were for black nose commercial, recreational size limits, recreational possession limits. All the comments are due May 29th, and the final rules expected by the end of the year. And the last one is Cyanid Board. They did a review of the de minimis criteria. They had several credible options proposed for the TC to evaluate. And action was postponed until the individual species have their stock assessment. So Croker's assessment will be this year and Spot in 2027. That's it.
Anybody have any questions?
Could you just repeat the first one,
The first one.
first item?
Talk?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that wasn't the good one. I thought.
I know, I just want to make sure I heard that right.
Excuse me?
Yeah, there's a 40 to 44% reduction needed for the New Jersey, New York Bight region. And that's 50% probability of achieving the target by 2030.
So does that include South Jersey, since we're more similar to Delaware?
It's,
Or is that all of New Jersey?
Montauk south through Cape May. I don't know exactly where the.
See, that's where we run into that.
But
Go to New York.
We had a lot of
does
talk.
it go to like the channel or does it just stop at Cape May? I don't remember exactly where the.
Yeah, I know, but that's something we need to really, they should be being brought up at the meeting because it's very different when you get down to Cape May area compared to even Barnegat now for Tog.
The 40% reduction is supposed to be enacted, hoping for improvement by 2030. So how soon are we supposed to enact the 40% reduction?
So the plan development team was just tasked with beginning the development of options that will get us there. It's still May, so there is potential that they will have options for the states to implement by 2020 or by 2027, January 1, 2027. But if it's delayed, I would say to give us the best chance of making it, we might end up having to do mid-season changes next year. Like maybe the April season is something, but by the fall season, we've got something else. But yeah, one of the options that they had originally discussed was a 50% chance of getting there by 2028. When are you gonna let us do this, guys? So the board actually saw the silliness in that, said, let's go for 2030.
Okay.
But yeah, from staff perspective, the sooner we start, the better chance we have.
Mhm.
So But yeah, the earliest it would be January 1. But if things get delayed, like the PDT comes up with a document and the board doesn't like it and kicks it back to them and pushes everything back one meeting, they might not be approving anything until next February, which would, you know, by then it's too late for us to do anything with the April season, so we'd be doing something mid-season next year.
Okay.
So what's the rationale for the 40%? Is it the spawning stock biomass? Is it recruitment? What?
We were overfishing. And I'm not involved with this stock as much as I used to be, but we've been seeing indicators of good age classes, year classes coming into the fishery. And so I'm like, oh, great, the population is going to be going up. We've been trying for 30 years to get the population to go up. It's finally going up. And everyone found them. So our
The
fishing
spot
mortality-
locks found the boats, my friend.
Right, lots of different things. Fishing mortality went
Pretty
up, so
simple.
the population is not overfished, it's actually increasing, but fishing mortality is higher than the target. By so
Makes
much
sense.
that you need to bring it, to get back to the target, we need to bring it down to 40%.
But that's only a 50% chance of bringing it back by when?
30.
20%.
30. That is, and it's saying that it's only a 50% chance
Well, so
with a 40% reduction. So
Yeah, but-
where does it go from there?
You can't have rebuilding in 5 years anyway.
No, that's not even
Right.
realistic.
Yeah, no.
we're not trying to rebuild anything. The stock is doing fine. We need to bring
Reduce
fishing
effort.
mortality down so that we don't tank the stock. We're just fishing too hard, but the stock is still
Too
fine.
easy.
We're fishing too well.
Yes, exactly
I probably
right.
had the best month that we've had in a long time.
We've had
Gee, thanks.
We had
we had a lot of small.
Trying to make it
we had,
short.
we, you know, last month, I would say
It's good.
we ran 23 trips, and I'd say we probably had an average of 5 fish to 1 that we got to keep, but we had a pretty good month.
Right. But
Some
5
days-
discharges to 1, right?
Some days it was 300-400 throwbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of
Yeah.
throwbacks.
Right.
I'd say, yeah, we've had over
And that-
200.
We even marked a couple fish. We caught it about 10 times too.
Yes, the mortality is not that high.
Oh, yeah, so-
Yeah, these things have a really low mortality.
Yeah.
But I think the take home from this is, well, ASMFC is starting their process. We, Marine Fisheries Council, Tautog Committee, expect a meeting later this year, at least one. I don't know, again. The earliest the board would see draft options would be their August meeting. So I sort of predict that we'll be meeting September, October, November, something like that.
Thank you.
That's ASMFC.
Yep.
You ready for the mid?
Mid-Atlantic, please.
So handout number 7, if you want to see it, they've created a bulleted list at the top, but I'm going to go through
So
a little more detail. So they're making changes to their essential fish habitat amendment, just redefining a couple of things. Page 2, recreational cowfish permitting, they're making changes. They've been requiring mandatory reporting for pilefish trips recreationally for a handful of years and not getting a lot of participation. So they're trying to streamline the process, make it simpler, hoping people are more likely to fill it out. So they've made changes to it, reduce unnecessary burden, improve clarity and enforceability. So council has made their decisions. NIMS then turned around and said, well, with everything else we've got going on, we probably can't make any changes prior to 2028. So we're trying to make it better. Obviously, things get held up in the pipeline, but changes are being made. Changes have been recommended. Scup Winter 1. So the scup fishery is broken into commercially broken into 3 seasons. There's an early winter fishery, there's the summer fishery, and then a second winter fishery later in the fall. Winter 1, we went over by about 20%. Partly because the way the regulations are written kind of tied NIMS' hands. We saw we were getting close, but they can't close the fishery until they reach it. They can't do it based on projections. They have to reach that limit before they close it. And because fishing was hot and heavy already, by the time they got around to closing it,
It's too late.
it was too late. So there was a big discussion about scup accountability measures. The council approved, or they requested that we start a framework to consider management flexibility to, improve how we manage this fishery. Sorry, on top of the way the regs are written, we also had a lot of late reports, delinquent reports, which by the time they came in, pushed us up even higher than we thought we were. Anyway, so they've started a framework, looking at the trip limit regulations, adjusting the accountability measures, and changing reporting requirements for federal limited access scup permits. This doesn't say when that work will happen. I think this one was a higher priority, so the council will start working on that framework pretty much right away. There was a general discussion about all the species that have multi-year specifications. Staff wrote a memo on how these happen and suggested changes to how that all happens. Again, council decided to start a framework to revisit how multi-year specifications are decided and implemented. NIFS says that most of that work will happen beginning in 2027. Kevin, you can speak to this one if you'd like. So New England Council, a couple of months ago, started a framework to implement IFQ in the monkfish and skate fisheries. After some back and forth with industry and the Mid-Atlantic Council, New England said, okay, forget it, we're scrapping the IFQ, but they had already set up like public hearings on that framework. Rather than canceling those hearings, they held them as listening sessions as what could we do to make monkfish and skate better. They had 4 in person and there's 1 online next week. There was 1 in Manahawkin just Tuesday this week, and we actually had I don't know, 5 or 6 guys from New Jersey's Gillnet Fishery, a couple from Ocean City. Was there someone from farther away? I don't remember.
No, I don't think we had any Long Islanders. We had good participation.
One of them at least.
Yeah.
So it was good, and New England and Mid were running these jointly, and so New England and Mid staff got to hear a lot of the concerns from our industry. Where it goes, I don't know. Kevin, if you want to speak to it.
Yeah, there's been a little back and forth since with Jason Didden, and appreciate that. We're talking about that. We had that April 1st to 20th. That was an old spawning closure that was put in for monkfish, I don't know, 30 years ago or something. And then that got rolled into a harbor porpoise closure by the harbor porpoise TRT. But now it seems kind of moot. I think there was very, very, very little takes in the Mid. At the last meeting I was at, it was near 0. I can't remember the number. It was very close to 0. So talked about maybe some relief there, but I think the general consensus was status quo at this point. The fishery has really changed in the Mid-Atlantic, and the skates have taken over. The monk have kind of left us, and you got to get out in 20, 25 fathoms. And so it's really it's different. And it was pretty steady for about 30 years, and now things have changed. So I think everybody in our ports are happy with status quo, because really to put in a new control, we had control dates back into the early 90s, and everyone got tossed. And this has been an ongoing saga for years, to be honest with you. But I think everybody's just satisfied. Let's see what happens. There was a huge bycatch event that happened several years ago with mobile gear vessels and juvenile monk. Was that the sole reason? I don't know, but they caught more than the directed fishery did in bycatch of very small fish. So was that a problem? I'm not sure what exactly happened. I don't think anybody is, or is it climate driven? We used to start the 3rd week of October. Now you don't catch any till Christmas. So, that's a huge change, right? So I'm not really sure what's going on, but I think status quo for now, and not get involved in a limited access scheme, which usually pits people against each other. For now, I think I would support a status quo, but thanks, Jeff, for all that.
Yeah, well, I had nothing to do with it. The New England and Mid said
you were
they
watching.
certainly got an
Yep.
earful from New Jersey.
Yeah,
so-
yeah, they did.
They
Yeah,
did.
so.
Couple quick updates. So there was an update. There's been some work by NOAA to improve our ability to age spiny dogfish. So they got an update on that work. And there was an update from Dwayne Fox in Delaware State on some cooperative research to look at modified sink gill nets for smooth and spiny dogfish. And the results were less consistent than I've seen from other ones. And I won't get into it, but it was interesting work. If you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, I could really speak to that. I built all that gear. So, you know, in New Jersey, what we did was we used a shallow smooth dog net during the spring. The control was a standard smooth dog net. The treatment was a shallow smooth dog net. And we want to just compare catch rates. So we didn't see much of a difference there. The nets I made for the winter spine dog fishery off of Delmarva, we raised the bottom line 12 inches and left essentially almost like a skirt. And because there's a lot of small sturgeons that overwinter there, and they seem to be close to the bottom, and those nets were very successful in reducing bycatch of small. These are small fish, 10 pounds, 5 pounds that fit that particular gear size. So I think it was, I don't know, 2 to 30. I can't remember the numbers, but it was a significant reduction. There was a reduction in catch in those nets, but what I did was put a shallow net on top of the skirt, kind of testing two things that I didn't want to put a deep net on top of that skirt because that might, we wouldn't be sure what treatment was working, right? So I have to do it step by step. So we used a shallow net, but we did reduce directed catch. So if there is another iteration of it, we should try a deeper net on that skirt. But the skirt certainly seemed to have value. So that was really the gist of what we found, you know, with that work.
And just one other update from mid on page 4 of that. We've got a twofer. Last year, Adam Nowalski won the Rick C. Savage Award, which is the highest award that the mid gives out. This year it went to Peter Hughes, who just finished his third 3-year term representing New Jersey at the mid. So Peter got honored at that April meeting. And so if you ever bump into him on the docks or whatever, give him a high five and thank him for his work. So that's my mid update.
I don't know if I should bring it up now or wait, for the habitat activities update with dredging season coming up. I would like to see us as a council submit a letter to Army Corps, asking them why they're only going to do sand mining and why they're not taking sediment out of inlets. Because we have a lot of inlets that are filling in, and they want to keep sand mining on the beachfront, and they don't want to take it out of the inlets because various reasons, of course. But I think we as a council should say something about it.
So certainly not telling council what they should and should not write, but we have asked them several times, and the answer has always been that there's not enough material in those areas to do replenishment from those areas. Doesn't mean they shouldn't dredge them. And there's actually an item later on the agenda talking about maintenance dredging. But if you all want me to write the letter, I'll write the letter, but we've already heard the answer. So
it's an excuse. It's not a solution, but there's a lot of inlets that need maintenance done. And
instead of destroying habitat to sand mine, it's just ridiculous that even our state would allow it.
Bob, if you wouldn't mind, if you'd make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Can you tell me exactly what the motion is?
Write a letter asking again why they are moving forward with sand mining only and not
Extracting sand from the inlet.
Right. Maintenance
Dredging of the inlet and using the sand for whatever.
So are you saying that they're not doing maintenance dredging at all?
No.
Or are you asking why are they not putting that sand back on the beach?
Why are they not
dredging
the inlets maintenance wise like they used to in prior years?
Okay.
And they're only sand mining. They're only pulling sand from offshore pulling off, shoals, lumps,
Yeah, we're
area,
losing all that
area
habitat.
and stuff like that, the habitat, instead of pulling out of the inlets where they used to pull from. My inlet's filling in, and my inlet hasn't, my inlet, last time they came and dug ours out, they basically dug a big hole and left.
Yeah, it made a mess.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think the criteria, and if I remember this from the Army Corps of Regs, is they can only be deposited within so many, there's a radius that where it can be dumped around the inlet, which
I think you're right. Yeah.
and I think it's due to the testing they do before they take the substrate. I don't know why, but I mean,
Well, they're
it's
pulling,
in when they do it,
they're pulling the sand in.
and they dump, and it comes back in.
They're setting a buoy up right outside of the inlet. They're coming
They're
in and
dumping.
putting the pipeline right up on the beach,
Right.
right from the inlet itself.
Right.
But they're not taking sand from the inlet. They rather just go up and down the beachfront and sand mine and go that route.
But it's something in their criteria, but it's good to hear what it is.
Yeah, I think when they do the, sometimes you'll see them go south before they get late, and the hopper dredge will dump, but they don't
Not
go.
far.
Not far.
No, not
No,
far at all.
not far.
Yeah.
And they, I think it's probably time constraints too, like they can't move, but it's been a long time since they put a pipe down the beach and pumped in the inlet. It's been years and,
John?
Yeah, just a couple, maybe, I don't know, points of clarification. EPA has designated an inlet disposal site, so when you see them go, they're only like a mile or two off the beach, but those are designated sites for dredge material from the inlets. They use the grain size analysis as criteria as to whether they can put it on
the
a
beach.
beach or not.
Makes sense.
And then the other thing I was gonna say is, I think what you're talking about is targeting the Philly district, right? Because the Philly district takes over after Manasquan Inlet South. And so Shark River Inlet and Manasquan Inlet, I think have been dredged more frequently than I'm hearing you say, some of your inlets. They don't do it until boats can't get in and out, but
We get some maintenance in Barnegat Light,
Yeah.
but,
they used to side cast and
yeah,
Barnegat,
now there's
right?
the hopper, usually the
Yeah.
Perry Tuck comes
Yeah.
now, but yeah.
So I guess that brings up a good question. Right, since we do have we are part of two different districts.
Yeah.
Is it going to both? Is it going to one?
I'd send it to both.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
I'd send it to both.
How would you like them to respond? Are you okay with just a letter? Do you want them to come here in person with a slideshow? What is the response you're looking?
I would like to see them come here and feed us face to face their excuses, yes, and have us be able to ask questions back.
And maybe they could give some of the history of when they plan to dredge our
Right.
inlets.
Yeah,
before we can't even use them.
I agree, because a few times we've contacted them by letter, they just send us a pretty much
Standard.
lame letter
Yeah.
back, and so I like your idea of having them come here and
Face to
talk
face.
to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think the level, right? I mean, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the level of sand mining that it's occurring now, on the front beach, and the removal of benthic habitat is gotten to a level now where there should be some questions asked,
Yeah.
right? I mean, somebody's got to watch this. I mean, it's just a constant pull of material nonstop, and it's really changing the dynamics, along shore. And as we sit here and try to worry about what's happening with weakfish and all these other species, these guys are just, I don't know, I mean, like they're just dredging away. I mean, it's got to be pretty invasive. I mean, I go across some of those dredge areas with my structure scan and I start looking, and if there wasn't water over top of it, it would look like just bulldozer tracks forever. You know what I mean? It's pretty aggressive. You see the size of those dredge boats that are here, they're whatever, I don't know if they're 2 or 3, 400 foot, they're huge. And, they really they move some material. I want to tell you that, it's amazing really, but I don't know how much of that, how long does that really take the bottom to recover after that, in these sites, I mean,
It's like the roller rigs. Roller rigs went across years ago and there was nothing left at the bottom once the roller rigs went through. It's the same way with the sand mine.
yeah,
Same way.
these are cut.
Jeff, because this is all in state waters, or Dave, has our state said anything about this with DEP? Because all this is in state waters, does DEP have any say?
Well, I was gonna say, you remember the Army Corps was here last year at some point. Again, they're looking for new sand borrow areas for beach maintenance. The original agreement for the borrow areas that they are using now was approved in the nineties,
Yeah.
not the 1980s. So that's why
I
DEP
remember
doesn't
that.
have any way to comment on it.
Yeah, I
And
remember
it's
the
been
site.
Approved in a
They always-
50-year agreement, 40-year agreement.
Yeah.
They're looking for new sites. So when they pick a new site, I'm sure DEP will have a chance to provide comment. And Marine Fisheries provides comment on, we get requests to provide comment on lots of different projects. And we would definitely comment on this one, but the reason we haven't recently is because it's a 40-year-old agreement.
Yeah, but they used to have, I mean, I know our inlet back in the nineties and the early 2000s, up to about 2009 or 10, they used to come every 3-4 years and
Well, that's
stand out of the
different.
inlet and put it up on the
Right.
beach.
That's maintenance dredging,
Well-
which is different than the beach replenishment,
Yeah,
the sand
yeah.
borrowing.
Well, why can't they piggyback the two together?
So
You know?
one of the confusing things is, the sand mining is for beach replenishment. That's authorized under one project.
Mhm.
The dredging of the inlets is another
Yep.
branch or division authorized under
Right.
another project. So we need to get,
Both sides
to
together.
me, they're not talking to each other.
Right.
We need them both to come and kind of talk to us about the big picture as opposed to, keeping them separate.
Right.
I think just for clarity in the letter, there are two issues. The question that I think you were asking originally is, when are you coming to do the inlet? Correct? Or are you expressing concerns about the sand mining for beach replenishment? I just want to be clear about what we're being asked.
I'm expressing both, Dave, because the sand that they used to put up on the beachfront to put stuff back, maintenance wise, whatever, used to come out of our inlets. So they used to do that and they used to put the sand up
I
on the
think John's
beachfront.
probably right, and it could be a grain site. Because you can only put
Yes.
sand, of particular material, particular grain size up on the beach. They just did it down at, right, that emergency.
Right, they dug a big hole in the inlet.
That's because grain size matches the placement.
So how,
Appropriate for the beach.
but how could the grain size 10 years ago be okay and now all of a sudden it's not okay? And it's the sand from the beach itself as it moves north and south.
If it is, it ain't assumption, but yeah, I don't know. Can't
Yeah, I think some of it's easier to pump. I think there's an issue too with pump, but I mean, I don't know if y'all remember, but when they were dumping that fill gravel on Harvey Cedars that one year when the beach was gone, the whole beachfront was orange, and as they dumped it, it just melted and went south, It was really a pathetic mess. And so, there is some concern about what kind of material you're using. But like when you go, like where they were dredging for all the maintenance north of the Seaside outfall pipe, it's just above that pipe, like 2 mile line. I mean, there's just a 90-foot hole there now, dug
Yeah.
to clay, and it's wild when you go over it to see like this giant pit, that used to be, I think, like 70 foot or something. Eddie probably remembers, but yeah, 65, 70 foot. Now it's just a 90-foot ditch and it's clay on the bottom. The trawl boats don't dare tow through it. They'll get stuck. There's mud lumps and could be clay lumps and you'll lose your net. So it really changed I can't say how, it really changes the bottom and that benthic habitat forever, in my assumption. Maybe some spots sand back over a little bit, but a place like that's been a couple of years now. It's just a big hole.
Before we vote on this motion, is there anybody in the public who'd want to make a comment?
So thank you. I was in attendance when the Army Corps of Engineer was here the last time. That was in New York. If I remember correctly. Yes, and how long does it take for that to mediate that area? And his response was, he's been doing it for 35 years. He's never seen it.
They don't,
it never comes back.
No.
Okay,
You know,
that's
there's
the answer.
stand to- to
I
put it in
do
the system.
remember also the other question
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
inlet.
absolutely.
And again, it was that radius, there was a radius that they couldn't use it, and I'm Little Egg Inlet. There's no way you'll ever convince me that the sand we have there isn't from LBI.
You got that right,
It
brother.
just comes, it's the same sand, it comes
Yeah.
down every year.
North and
So it
south.
doesn't have anything to do with grain size, it's just, they don't want to go out of that area.
Yeah.
But, and I also remember that they said that, the sand mining was an act of Congress.
Yes.
Yes.
So if you want to deal with that, you got to go to Congress. They're just paid and ordered to do it from Congress. They are not making any decisions on this. And last, the question was asked on sand mining, who's regulating it? Who's managing it? And the answer was, it is self-managed by the dredgers themselves. So right there is a whole host of issues. And I would say if you're going to get anybody here, it's important we get the guys from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Because we had New York here, and a majority of these issues are south of that line.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but look, you guys see it. I've served Fish LBI. Man, it's making a big difference. It really is. So you're working so hard to try and bring fish back. And then we're just destroying habitat and by blocks. So that's just my point to it.
And so many of these things are funded long term.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, the funding for this might go for 5 or 10 or whoever knows how many more years.
I think it was just re-upped. I think, having a.
Yeah, so the beach replenishment and sand mining, as Jeff pointed out, the current project we're under was authorized in, I think it was 97, the late 90s. It's a 50-year project. So what they have to do is they have to get Congress every 4 years to allocate the money for that 4-year period. And so that project never comes up for review until the end of that 50-year period, which, if my math is right, is 2047. So, so that's back to what I was saying. The two groups managing the two different activities, they're not coordinating with each other as well to say, oh, you guys are going to dredge the inlet. Maybe we can not borrow sand from this area for that project short term because you're going to give us sand. I don't think they think like that.
For beneficial reuse of that material. And sand, when it exists in a spot that they need to dredge, is super easy to dispose of because everyone will take it for beach replenishment purposes. So my guess is that if there's an inlet with sand, they're communicating about beach replenishment close by because they have this new mandate that they have to first look toward beneficial reuse.
Well, from what I just read from my inlet, they're not doing my inlet, they're doing the inlet above me, which is not even, you can't even pull boats in and out of there. They're going in and out of Corson's, and
Yeah, but-
they're gonna sand mine the beachfront.
Yeah, I think there's two
So-
things. One is what triggers maintenance strategy, right? How shallow does it need to get before they make that a priority for maintenance dredging? Once they're doing maintenance dredging, when they're picking up material, they have to first look for beneficial reuse. If it's appropriate for placement on the beach, probably where they're going from an inlet, 'cause it's just the easiest thing to do. And most beaches would accept that material. If it's silt or fines or clays, it's got to go somewhere else. You can't put it on the beach like we were talking about. So anyway, John, only to say that because they have this new mandate that they need to beneficially reuse material, they need to look there first. My guess is when they decide it's time to do maintenance dredging of an inlet, if there's sand, they're placing it on the beach.
I think I have my marching orders. But we have a motion.
There's a motion. We just have all those in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I'll look up. Okay.
Your report.
that was the end of the mid, right? So Bureau report, just two real quick updates before just a second. You have a copy of our new regulations card. That's for 2026. So those are out. Enforcement's been handing those out. The digest, we're expected a delivery date of May 15th. It's usually online like a week ahead of time, so that could be early tomorrow, I'm guessing. Though I don't have that specific update. And actually, just one other thing, we did update our attention anglers regulated posters. And you remember that we've been translating those. So last few years we've done Mandarin, Spanish. Last year we added Vietnamese. This year we added Korean and Russian. So now we have our regulations, our summary regulations in 6 languages, English plus 5 more. So I'm probably going to stop there because I'm.
Well, no, I think we should ask law enforcement if they need any other
That's what I-
languages.
that's how I did it.
think we need to go.
We started with, we started with Mandarin because that was high, Mandarin and Spanish. And then last year, Brian asked me for Vietnamese. This year, he's like, I don't know, let's try Korean and
I'm
Russian.
sure there's
So
more.
We're happy to take more, but we're starting to, anyway, they're out there and they're online. And so feel free to share.
So I asked you this earlier, and I'll just put it on the record. Hopefully, if the transparency ever comes out of the middle of our state and stuff gets approved, we get speckled trout on here finally.
Yes, so yes, one thing to think about for next year is adding a line. When weed fish and sea trout are different, so. Yes.
So there's room.
So we sent up the rule proposal. It has been sitting, it's gone through legal review. Might need new legal review because with the new administration, I don't know if that program has changed, but yeah, it has not yet been signed. It has been up there since last fall. And I asked for an update the other day, and I don't think I've got it. So. That was like a 90-day, we're beyond 90 days, but like it, not by much, so it's in the pile that just got the truck backed up with all of the regulations that everyone is trying to. Yes, so that's my Bureau update. Brendan is here to give an update on the 2025 bonus program. He's got some slides, and he's gonna kick it to him. And you do have copies of these slides as a handout. So.
All right, good evening, everyone. Go to the next slide. So yeah, just wanted to give a couple of highlights about this program from 2025. So in terms of the number of participants, we had about a little under 11,000 individual anglers that participated in the program. That was like about a 7% decrease from 2024. And about 162 for hire boats participated, which is about the same as the last few years. In terms of the number of permits that we issued a little over 20,000 permits. We're allowed to issue 25,100 permits, so we issued about 81% of the permits that we're allowed to issue each year. And that is a little bit of a decrease compared to 2023 and 2024, where we issued almost all the permits we had. We were issuing like 98% of the permits we had. I think a little bit of that comes into, we were kind of mindful of that we were getting close to that limit. So we kind of held back on some of the number of permits we were issuing to some for hire boats in the beginning. But also just, I think participation was down a little bit last year. For logbooks and trip reports that were returned, we got at the end of the season, 143 out of the 162 for hire boats returned their logs. We got logbooks from about almost 3,000 individual anglers. In terms of the total bonus harvest, 2,896 fish were harvested for about a little over 20,000 pounds. And that's from our 798 pound quota. So we only harvested about 10% of our quota last year. That was a 63% decrease from 2024. So 2023 and 2024, we had I think they were the two highest years of harvest on record in the time series, and last year we saw a pretty big decline. Most of that was from the for hire fishery, so there's about a 37% decrease in harvest from individual anglers, but about a 68% decrease from the for hire fishery. And then just to break it down by mode, so for hire, harvested about 75% of that total bonus harvest, which is a little bit of a decrease. They represented about 85% of the harvest in 2024. Individual anglers compromised about 25% of the harvest last year, which was an increase from 15% from the year before. And then in terms of ocean harvest versus harvest from the back bay or the estuaries, ocean harvest represented about 60% of the harvest, down from about 79% in 2024. And the back bay and estuaries comprised about 38% of the harvest, which was an increase from 20% the year prior. So kind of, those are a lot of numbers to throw at you, but just to sum up those last 2 points, saw kind of a drop in the for hire fishery in terms of bonus harvest. The individual angler harvest, made up more of the harvest last year, and then there was more harvest that took place in the back bay and estuaries last year compared to the year prior. Do the next slide. This is just a quick table of the last 10 or 11 years, just to show you where we stood. So down in the bottom in the green or the shaded row is 2025. So these are the numbers I kind of just said. So we harvested about 2,896 fish for about 20,000 pounds. The average mean length was about 26 inches. Mean weight was about 7 pounds, represented 10% of our quota. But we issued about 81% of the permits that we're allowed to issue. I think I just looked, I think it ranked in the whole time series about 13th in terms of total number of bonus fish harvested. Yeah, I think something else I'll point out, you can actually go to the next slide. Thanks. So this is just a little plot going in orange, or that top line shows the percent of permits that we're allowed to issue each year and how many of them were the percent that were actually issued. So you can see like 23 and 24 were right up at 100% almost. So we issued almost all the permits that we were allowed to issue. So you can see that trend since 2017. It's been going up, and then last year we saw a little bit of a decline. And then the percent of the quota used is in that dotted line down at the bottom. So there's that question all the time about how much of the quota are we actually using. So yeah, the quota for utilization is definitely low, but we're limited to the number of permits that we're allowed to issue. So just wanted to show you guys this graph, and go to the next slide, Pat. It's just a breakdown of bonus harvest. On the left side, you have harvest from individual anglers, and on the right side from the for hire fishery. And just shows where the majority of harvest took place. So you can see for the for hire fishery on the right, it's dominated by the Hudson and the Northern Ocean and Middle Ocean regions. And then the individual anglers on the left side is much more varied across the state. And you can see that back bay fishery being more prominent compared to for the for hire fishery. And last slide I have is just obviously we put programs opening May 15th, so we started the application process in the middle of April. So far we've issued about 4,500 permits to individual anglers, and about 81 for hire boats have signed up so far. So yeah, I'll definitely take questions. Sure.
So for hire boats, do you have a breakdown of size of boats though?
Sorry?
You have a breakdown of the size of the boats, or the six packs, or the over six?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers now, but I can definitely get it for you. But yeah,
and
predominantly,
have you seen an influx, or I guess an increase in for hire Barnegat North. Because Barnegat South, there's no fishery, so.
Yeah, I could definitely dive into some of the for hire boats and see where their ports are.
I'd be curious to find out.
By the port. But yeah, majority of the for hire fleet is definitely, northern county up through Monmouth County, definitely.
Well, it looks like both have the highest harvest from Sandy Hook to the north and mid-ocean, right, or for both sectors? Is that pretty consistent from year to year as well?
Yeah, no, definitely,
That makes sense. Yeah, it
It
makes
has been
sense.
for about the past 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's no fishery down south anymore.
So when you calculate the average weight, is it, you use, 'cause most of the time you probably just get lengths from everyone, right?
Yes, you get weights from the for hire boats.
Do you?
For the harvest, yep, and then, on the angler side, it's optional. So we do get some fishermen that are reporting weights as well, but, the for hire boats are required to, provide weights for harvested bonus fish. Questions?
Jeff does.
I have one if I'm allowed.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Ernie. So I saw that the effort was down. You handed out fewer permits. But any indication of or any thoughts on how the large 2018 year class moving through the fishery might have affected the catch?
Yes, I think that, I was thinking about putting that into the slide, but you kind of match up the year classes with like the bonus harvest. You go through, the slide, back a couple. Yep, this one. So, like the 2015s where. Yes, you see that jump in harvest from like 2020 to 2021 and 2022. So that's like the 2015s when they were in the bonus slot, and then, sorry.
2023.
Yeah, so then 2022, 2023, are like the 2018s coming through, so,
And 2024 was 2018's too, right?
yeah, sorry, what did I say?
You said the wrong. It's 2023 and 2024 primarily.
Just look up closer.
Yeah.
I think he needs glasses.
So, yeah, in 2020, the 2015s were about 5, and 2021, so yeah, you see this jump up in harvest in 2020 and 2021. Then it goes down a little bit in 2022, and then up again in 2023 and 2024, when the 2018s would kind of be that slot.
And so now the 2018s are through the slot,
Yeah, so
which is why the bonus harvest could be part of the reason the bonus harvest.
that would be something that to keep an eye on, the next couple of years, if these weaker year classes move through the fishery, the bonus program should pick up on that, so.
Joe? So I'm gonna give you my annual, I think this is 4 years I've asked. The charter of our council in 23(2)B says we have to use optimal. And 10%, I don't think anybody would say would be optimal catch.
Yeah, and I think that's why I wanted to show that one figure with, so from our CE proposal, our conservation equivalency plan, that's approved by SNFC, we're limited to the number of permits we're allowed to issue each year. Since it isn't, technically a commercial fishery, we had to submit a proposal to allow this program to continue. So within that program, it's kind of like a little conservation buffer. We're limited to that number of permits. So the last few years, besides 2025 or 2023, 2024, we were pretty much at that ceiling. So we did see a decline last year, might see another decline this year. But yeah, it's something that, we can keep an eye on. I think that we had discussions last few council meetings about maybe revisiting, seasons and the bonus program, once we kind of hear more about how the assessment plays out.
So we're putting off the decision till when?
I think it's up to the council really, right?
Right, so it is council's decision on what you want. Staff's perspective is, right now, we're in a rebuilding period for striped bass through the ASMC process. It would be hard for us to justify expanding our fishery when everyone else is taking reductions, or at least we're all going through a rebuilding. Let's get through this assessment, let's get to that rebuilding target, and then it'll be a whole lot easier than saying, you know, give us more fish when we're trying to actually leave more fish in the water. So,
Well,
that's staff's
But
perspective.
we couldn't tweak the size limit?
right. On that, on Eleanor's note, if they just put the Delaware Bay estuary with Chesapeake, they have a.
That's not our decision, though.
I get that, but they have a smaller stock. I mean, they have a smaller size, I should say. They can keep a smaller size, which we've talked about in the Delaware Bay before. So, you know, is that a possibility with size to bring down size in the Delaware Bay region, south end of the state?
There's a lot of, that's a loaded question, let's say that. I mean, we'd have to go through the ASMFC process, we'd have to get reassociated, you know, essentially split the state, put part of the southern half of the state with the Delaware, you know, stock. Enforcement, I'm sure, would have some say in, you know, multiple size limits throughout the region. Those are just, not saying it can't happen, but it's not like just flipping a switch. It's
Well,
not a decision.
How the fisheries going? I mean, the south end of the state, the fishery right now is not there right now. The fishery's only in the north end of the state. And, you know, if you're gonna put the Delaware Bay.
Is that because there are no fish there, or because the regulations aren't letting you keep fish?
Regs aren't letting you keep fish, guys aren't fishing for them, the guys are going where all the fish are. If the fish are up north, everybody's going up north. There's nobody running. I don't know of any head boat running down south of Barnegat Lake besides Ed.
Because there
That's
aren't any
running.
fish there. You just said there aren't any fish there,
No,
right?
well,
So,
by the time we get the fall run down,
It's
late. Everybody's done fishing already.
It's
And they're
late.
offshore.
So, right,
Federal
and
waters.
which is,
you're outside of 3 miles anyway. So,
our regulations aren't gonna change that, so.
no, but there was a fishery at one point in time in the Delaware Bay, and there's still fish up there. There's just not guys fishing for them because all the abundance is up north,
Right.
North Jersey. So, you know, there's no for hire fishery because there's no people coming down here to go. They're all going where the fish are heaviest right
Right.
now. So, if that makes sense.
So I mean, changing our regulations isn't gonna change how many fish show up.
No, I get that, but, you know, we've talked about splitting, you know, splitting our state before with fluke and odds of that nature, you know, have one set of regs for the north end of the state, one set of regs for the bottom of the state. This is the prime example where that would also work, you know, so.
So just clarify, you know, all I would ask is, instead of starting on May 15th, can we start May 1st? I mean, we're only at 10%. I mean, it is 2 weeks.
So again, right now, we think staff perspective is that would be a hard sell through ASMFC because we're in this rebuilding period and works. It would be hard to ask for more fish when everyone else is taking less fish, right? Or everyone else is limited.
So you need
Um,
approval, Jeff, to move those dates with the commission, even if you're under
We
harvesting?
would have to submit a conservation equivalency plan. And if it's, sounds like you're not just asking to shift them, but extend the season, so have more open days, right? So that would essentially leave us catching more fish. But again, it's not how many fish we catch, we're limited by how many licenses or how many permits we can give out. If every single one of those, so not last year, but so 2024, 98% of our permits were handed out. If every single one of those permits reported a fish, we would have caught our quota.
Well, that's a
So it's
good
not
thing.
based on how many fish we catch, it's how many fish that we could catch.
Yeah, but you have the ability to close the fishery if you're getting to that.
I don't know if we do. After we give you a permit, we can't say, sorry, that's not valid anymore.
Yeah, but the permit, there's only, the permits are only to catch one fish, right? So what's the difference if you started earlier and then people use up the tags? What, I don't, it
Because
doesn't
they
make,
can request others.
yeah, so what? But we don't catch we're 10% of the quota.
We're not asking for more fish, we're asking for more of our fish.
Yes, they're
that, yeah,
our fish, they're not ASMC's.
Correct. But the way.
So we're not asking for more quota. We're asking to better utilize our quota.
Yeah.
We would not be having this argument if this was a commercial person, because we don't, quote unquote, ever want to leave fish on the table. We're leaving
A lot.
90%.
Yeah.
The
I can
agreement
deal
we
with
have with ASMFC is we are limited by the number of permits. we
Okay.
give out.
Okay.
But you could give out the permits, but you could have start 2 weeks earlier. Doesn't make any sense.
It's like,
Does
it's not, it's our commercial quota, right, that we transfer to to form this recreational program.
Mhm.
So, yes, it's kind of managed by quota, but it's also like not, it's no longer a commercial fishery, so we can't like manage it like a commercial fishery does, where we manage it to that quota. On this is because in theory, I think everybody can agree that there's definitely a level of permits that go unreported that are used to harvest fish, and so that's something we hear from other states or through the ASMFC process. So that's why there is that conservation buffer, if you want to call it, where we're limited.
It's a cap.
We issue the cap of the permits.
So if we issue all the permits.
Yeah.
And I catch one at 25 inches. And I send my tag in, I don't get another tag back, correct?
Not if we handed out all the.
Okay, so
that-
we've already we've already limited what we can do. We can't go over.
Yeah, the quota.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not asking for more quota. We're asking for better performance within our structure.
Yeah, I think that was, I totally understand what you're saying. I think the last 2 years, it was, one thing I think I pointed out at meetings is that, so if you did shift it, just something to think about, it's the council decision, how to move forward and so forth, but, 2023, 2024, when we were issuing almost all of them, we issued more in the beginning, or bumping it up 2 weeks or 4 weeks. If that brought in more interest, more for higher boats or so forth, then you might even run out of permits and at the end to affect the fall fisheries. Just something to think about. Obviously, last year we only issued 8%, so that might have not been, but.
So we run out. Who cares?
Who
It's
cares?
just something to think about, just something to.
Well, yeah. But again, we're not utilizing what we have set up right now, and we've never reached our target. So if we never reached our target, then why is the imaginary May 15th date still even there? Why wouldn't we adjust dates? And if you get a tag, I don't fish for them, so I'm kind of going by what everybody else. When you get one tag, you don't get a second tag until you hand a tag in, right?
Until you catch your fish, yeah.
So I don't get.
There's like plenty of safeguards.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
the way you got it.
Yeah.
So why don't I throw something out? Why don't you just go down to ASMFC for next year and say, look, we want to bump our season to May 1st instead of May 15th. What's the worst that can happen? There's nothing.
Yeah, I wanted to help him out a little bit. Go ahead.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
So I tend, what he's saying, I tend to agree, but I think we should have our striped bass committee meeting here. And we should start going over some of this and see what our advisors say and how we move this forward. I think that's our first step.
And I'm okay with that. And it's been on the committee list for a while. Just to respond quickly to your request, Joe, is it's not just us going, hey, ASMFC, can we do this? It's Brendan writing probably a 5 or 10 page proposal, which is a whole lot more than, hey, ASMFC, can we do this, right? And then it goes to the technical committee and it gets reviewed. So there's a process to it, and it's a lot of staff time. And our position recently has been the juice ain't worth the squeeze. We kind of know what the answer we're gonna get from ASMFC. ASMSC doesn't like this program in the first place, they're not gonna be looking for
Well-
letting us expand it.
that's their problem, not ours.
And
Yes.
if you guys want us to ask, we will let them be the bad guy.
I think it's time we start to go after ASMFC, because what I'm hearing now from Fish and you guys don't want to do anything that puts any pressure on ASMFC. They've already taken our sea bass away. Now we're going to striped bass. What's going to be next?
We'll talk.
I take exception with that statement, but if you guys would like to have a
Well,
phone.
we lost our sea bass.
Because Jeff, if I could, because what's happening is we're gonna have a thing on Fluke here, and the numbers are great that he puts together. And it's just like for every keeper, there's 10 throwbacks. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just a straight bass, it's now the Fluke. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you know, at some point, somebody's got to give here.
Again, if you guys would like to have a striped bass committee meeting, it's on the list already, so we can make that happen.
We'll bump that up on the priority scale.
This is probably the right time to be asking for it, because if we want to do a conservation equivalency proposal, it's gonna have to be this fall
Where's
for
the
next
question?
year's fishery.
If we got X amount of tags that we're handing out, who cares what dates we use? There's X amount of tags going out, there's X amount of tags coming back. Who cares what dates we use? Why are dates even in there? If there's only X amount of tags,
It's a valid question. I don't have the answer. I just, maybe Brian, you can speak to it if you want to get him back up here, but it sounds like.
back in.
Right, no, I know that. I mean, feel his breath on the back of my neck.
But yeah, it just doesn't make sense. If there's only X amount of tags, who cares what dates we use?
Sounds like, yeah, it sounds like we're ready to have a.
But I think there is,
Ask me.
there is an argument too, Jeff, that, you know, I mean, now the Raritan has become, right, the new Chesapeake, you know, and things have moved. So an earlier season isn't a weird ask, you know, because there's a fishery going on there now that didn't exist, you know, so there is a shift in time, right? It's just like I used to sell great amount of menhaden. It was a great business for me for years for the rips.
Yeah.
And that doesn't exist now. It's completely gone. And a lot of it, the fish do go by down there. I mean, I was doing some whale stuff with a FLIR camera, and I was down there off Atlantic City a couple of years ago, and the bass were everywhere, and there wasn't a boat out there. They were just busting water everywhere, but it was late. It was almost January,
Everybody's
you know,
gone.
and the boats, the marinas shut down.
Yeah.
Yep.
The first week of December, the insurance, and you can get a spot sometimes if you're insured, but a lot of the marinas are like, that's it, out, you know, so the boats get flagged. So there has been a shift, you know, a shift in availability. So, I mean, it does make some kind of an argument to, if there's X amount of tags. I mean, I don't really want to dive super deep into this, but I mean, if there's X amount of tags, and there's only so many fish that can be harvested, and the tags are used up, and you figure out how many pounds that is, it equates to, it is like a commercial fishery, right? I mean, so, but I just think that would be an argument for the commission that, you know, times are changing. There is a shift. I mean, we see it, right? You know, if you told me 25 years ago, people be bailing striped bass in Raritan Bay up along the cities, I'd be like, what? You know, I mean, it wouldn't make sense, right? You wouldn't think it was possible, but things are changing, you know, so.
Just what, Brenda, is this because everybody isn't using their tag or it's smaller?
Underperformance.
Is it because people get it because they don't want to miss the chance and it's a lack of enthusiasm?
Are you saying why?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a crystal ball question, but I mean.
I think it's hard to quantify how many people are
I use
harvesting fish, but then not reporting it. You
Did
know?
it look like weather played a role in it?
weather plays a
I
role,
think-
because I can report
think
for
that-
me.
Go ahead.
Last year.
So I do get the bonus tag and I participate, and I might keep like one fish, but then I'll get my next tag.
Mhm.
But a lot of times you don't even get out again with the weather, and then you might try to get the right size is not that easy.
Like all of October.
In the fall,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was horrible.
You get out.
it was
Yeah, it was
really
horrible.
bad weather
That's
last
the
year.
That big impact.
Yeah.
So many trips canceled.
Yeah.
I can speak to my boat, and quite frankly, we had plenty of slots. But it was after December 1st. But we had plenty of slots. We didn't need to take another fish.
Yeah. there's a
So
lot of-
I had to tag if
Getting around
if
that
we
shit.
came across those fish, but I was lucky enough to find the right ones. But yeah, week before Christmas, we're
Well,
catching
it was also a very poor
surface.
northern
Miserable.
Coast surf fishery last year. So I'm sure a lot of surf fishermen didn't use their tags.
Hmm.
Right
So
at
it's kind of an underperformance, weather oriented, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so
I think this that year's an anomaly.
Availability.
interesting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good job.
All right, we're for committee reports. I'm gonna turn it over to Mike. But while I'm here, handout number 10, in your handout is, as I've been doing, these are the agendas for the Fish and Game Council. The Endangered and Non-Native Species Advisory Council isn't meeting for 2 weeks, so their agenda is not ready yet. We saw their last meeting agenda at our last meeting. But just for awareness, Fish and Game Council's agenda from their April meeting is in there, and for their next May meeting, which is next week, is in there. And now I'm going to pass it to Mike, who's going to go over the angler survey. Eleanor, if you have any thoughts from the committee meeting as well, I'll let you, Mike.
Mike goes, but 1 second, I had a meeting earlier today with the chair of the Fish and Game Council. And one of the things we discussed was possibly once a year doing a joint meeting of their council and our council together. We share a lot of common things. And I think there's a lot of things that maybe we could work together on. Instead of just being two separate entities. They meet once a year with non-game and endangered species in a combined meeting. I'm not sure how much enthusiasm I have there. But if once a year we met with the Fish and Game Council, I'll keep everybody abreast of where that discussion goes, and we'll talk about it and get a feel for it.
One
I'm not
caveat,
going to the meeting.
if we're gonna meet with them, have them come out here,
I'm not going up there.
because they meet in a cornfield someplace, and me and Bill got, well, yeah.
It won't be a Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning. That I can promise you, unless you want to meet in the second office in my place.
Robbinsville.
Incidental work.
So I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, before Mike starts, I'd just like to say we had a committee meeting, and there's Pat Donnelly and I were at the meeting, and we had several advisors, and we just made some minimal changes to the survey form to make it better. So I'll let Mike present our data summary of last year's survey and what's been done to the survey instrument. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Eleanor. Thanks, Eleanor. Yeah, I'm gonna sit here. I can't see from over there, so, and I apologize to the folks in the audience that, I just always forget just how difficult it is to see. Just a couple of, before I go into the actual slides, I just wanted to mention a couple of things from the meeting, that Eleanor just had spoken about. One, we did meet, as Eleanor said, we, opened all the details. We did make some modest tweaks to the tally form that was very popular last year. Just to highlight one or two big changes. It seemed like the avidity question, the question where we were asking people how many times they fished last year, in the prior year, or how long they had fished, created some confusion on the form. So we just dropped that all together, hoping to streamline the form a little bit and make it a lot easier. So we spent some time on that. And yeah, and with respect to the tally forms, one of our the council committee advisors had asked about having drop-offs and pickups at NACO Creek, which we can easily accommodate. I was able to catch up with our administrative staff just today, and they're totally open to it. No problem whatsoever. So we're going to have some packets available at the office. If you're there to do some kind of business, you can pick up a packet of 25 or so. If you have any trouble printing out individual forms, you can pick up these packets. We're also going to make them available at council meetings. So I have packets of 20 in the back over there. I also have some individual forms. You don't need 25, you can just take an individual form or two. But we're just trying to do whatever we can to make them easier to get out to the public. If you have them, you can drop them off at the NACO Creek office, either with the administration staff. We also have a mailbox when you first sort of come into the NACO Creek driveway. Right now it's used for the bonus program. It has a little SBBP on the side of it, but in that first box, when you come in our driveway, it's also going to be, you'll be able to drop off your volunteer survey forms there too. And you can drop them off at council meetings as well. So we're just trying to do whatever we can to make it as easy as possible for folks to get these forms back to us.
And you should point out too, people can just email them too.
Yeah, our preferred way, if you can accommodate it, is at the bottom of the form, we have our email address. If you can just take a picture with your phone and email it to us, that's a really handy way. Saves on postage, and we can just get those entered. They come to us directly, so it's a really handy way. So just a couple of notes. So thanks for mentioning that. So yeah, now for the summary here. Let me here. Yeah, so there's a ton of slides in the packet. I'm gonna skip most of them. They're there mostly just for your information. I'm gonna try to avoid going through all the counts that I've provided over the last year a couple of times, and focus on some just size information that I thought you guys might find interesting. So just kind of preliminaries, big picture stuff. This data summary includes everything from last year. So all three data reporting formats, we have 3 ways to report to us, 2 electronic and 1 paper. This includes all 3 of those, and it covers the entire calendar year from January 1st to December 31st. Let's see. This was a reminder to myself that the summary you're going to see is from last year's regulations. They're very similar on a size basis this year, so not too notable, but just a reminder to myself. This is 2025 summary under 2025's regulations. So this will be the only count summary that I provide that I'll talk about. The rest are just in there. I'm happy to answer questions if you have them, but I'm not going to talk about them. Just this first big picture table, just to touch on the sample sizes, just seemed like a really successful program in terms of getting information to us. We had almost 1,700 black sea bass released, reported to us, and almost 2,400 summer flounder reported to us. So really, really nice numbers. It's spectacular turnout from folks. And so I'll skip all the other summary table information and get right to some size information that I thought you might find interesting. So this is the first box plot. It's like it's page 8 of your presentation. And so what I'm showing here are the length distribution by latitude. And so I didn't want to make the thorny decision of like where the breakpoints should be. So to just have something, I just used half degrees of latitude, so just completely arbitrary. And so you see we get these kind of weirdo breaks. This bottom set of plots is for the area of Great Bay to Cape May, give or take. This middle set of plots is from Great Bay to La Valette. And that's just because that's about where the 40th latitude happens to be. And then this top set of plots is for Raritan Bay, La Valette to Raritan Bay. And so the big picture that I walked away from, these open colored boxes, this is the distribution of kept fish. And the box part of it represents, if you think of like a bell-shaped curve, the box represents like the meaty part of the curve. It's the central 50% of that curve. So this is where the action is essentially. And what I see when I look at this plot from latitude is that the distribution of harvest among those 3 latitudinal boundaries is remarkably similar. So people aren't keeping very big fish in one region versus the other. And then ditto with the releases. This is the gray boxes. Again, this is the meaty part of the curve. This black line is the peak of that curve. And so you can see there's just a large degree of overlap among each of those 3 latitudes, which from my perspective is really interesting and I think helpful for us when or if we're able to get this plugged into the recreational demand model. From some of our conversations with those folks, one of the things they've told us is if there are regional differences in sizes, it could complicate their analyses. It wouldn't make it impossible, just complicate things. But this seems to suggest that that shouldn't be a complication, which is really reassuring. So the next set of box plots is now, again, think of that meaty part of the distribution, but this time by mode. So this is party charter, this is private rental, this is the shore mode, and these are records that people just didn't report the mode. And so here we actually do see some size differences. The harvest, again, this is the open boxes. Here they actually look relatively similar, but it looks like the shore mode generally tends to keep maybe a smaller size fish, or at least it's the meaty part of the curve is narrower than it is in the boat modes, which is maybe not too surprising. And then we see a similar pattern with the released fish. So these are the boat distribution of sizes of the fish released by boats. And so you can see that these are very similar, whereas we see a smaller size distribution for the shore mode. Again, maybe not too surprising, but interesting to see once we started pulling these data together. And then I think this is the last box plot I have on flounder. And this shows very similar. This is by water body, so inland, ocean 0 to 3 miles, ocean federal waters 3 to 200 miles. The open boxes are the harvest, and again we see relatively similar sizes. We're not seeing huge differences in the size of released fish. Maybe in state waters, that's a little narrower distribution than in federal waters or in inland, but that could also be a function of sample size. We have to dig into this a little bit more. But then also these gray boxes, these are the releases. They're all about the same, roughly the same size. These the peaks of those curves, this gray line, or the dark heavy line is about the same across all the different areas, suggesting again that people are catching and releasing about the same size fish in the different areas, which again is probably reassuring for the recreational demand model, and maybe that helps us out a little bit. And this plot was actually from we had our council committee meeting. One of our advisors had asked about the ratio of releases to kept fish or kept to release fish. He had asked about it for a month, and so we put this together. But we'll also put these together by latitude and by mode and by water body. We'll have those for future summaries. But essentially what it's showing, and Councilman Rizzo touched on this earlier. So this is month along the x-axis, May, June, July, August, September. This is the releases per keeper on the y-axis. So you'll see the lowest ratio of releases to keepers is in this early month. So people are keeping a fish. They are releasing about looks like 3 or 4 fish per keeper. That number increases over the summer until July, where they're releasing about maybe 11 over 10 fish per keeper. And then that number kind of declines as we get into late summer and early fall. Okay, now we'll move on to black sea bass, and I'll show the similar summary that is shown. Count for black sea bass. Again, I'll skip all the counts. Unless you have questions about them, I'm happy to answer them. And then, yeah, so these are those box plots again. These are the same latitudinal breaks, so Great May to Cape May, Great Bay to Lavalette, and Lavalette to Raritan Bay. And then the size distribution here for each of these, for each of those areas, the white boxes are the kept. I think what's maybe happening with the kept in this in the southern area is the sample size. This is where we had the fewest kept fish, 16 kept fish versus a couple hundred in the 2 other latitudinal boundaries. So maybe a sample size issue, maybe true differences, but maybe latitudinal, maybe it's just sample sizes. But the release size fish look like they're all about the same size. Gray boxes are all falling right within the same length fin. Looks like 10 to maybe roughly 13 or 14 inches or so. Yeah, similar now for black sea bass by mode, party charter, private rental, and these are people that just didn't report the mode. Here it looks like we do see some size differences. The white boxes again are the kept fish, and so it looks like the largest size fish kept came from the private rental mode. Comparable size came from what they didn't report, and the smallest fish looks like it came from the party charter mode. The releases look like they were about the same from both of those modes. And then I think this is the last box plot I have for this. The takeaway here, this is by water body, so inland, ocean, state, and then ocean federal. The harvest looks like it's a size of harvested fish look like they're about the same. Those white boxes overlap each other, and the size distribution of the releases, these gray boxes look like they're all about the same. All the gray boxes kind of overlap each other. And then we put together this similar plot on releases per kept fish, and it shows a very similar pattern that we saw for summer flounder. Lowest, actually not the lowest, low value in May, it looks like about maybe 5 or so releases per kept fish. Comparable number in June. You see a spike in July up to maybe 10 releases per kept fish, and then the lowest numbers in August and October at maybe about 1 or 2 releases per kept fish. So that's what I have for the kind of data summary. Our next steps, we'll continue to validate those data. See negative response. We'll continue to validate these these data. We'll continue summarizing. There's a lot of different ways we can summarize these to get some additional information. This is all length-based information. We'll start looking at like catch-based statistics. So catch per angler in different areas and so forth. So we'll continue doing that. We've already started 2026's collection. We already have a couple of records coming in, which is great. Like I mentioned, we have some forms in the back table. Please tell your friends and family and enemies too. We need
Pretty much anybody, we got it.
Pretty much anybody. And
So frenemies?
especially if they fish. So we'll continue to do that. We have some advertising that we're gonna do over the summer. We'll get our listserv messages out, but we could really use some word of mouth advertising. So please tell everyone you know about them. This is just a quick shot of 2026's regulations, just to sort of for completeness. It would seem odd not to have this for this presentation, but very similar regulations. But Black Sea Bass has some expanded days, which is great. Some expanded, maybe some expanded days in summer flounder too. So, but here are the regulations. These there's a QR code in your packets and on the screen, links to our splash page for the volunteer Annual survey program. So all our different reporting platforms, please use it. And then, yeah, that's all I have. So happy to answer any questions if there are any, or if you just, happy to entertain comments as well.
Joe?
Yeah.
You do a great job, because your numbers are just exactly what's happening out in these bays and stuff. At what point with the discards, when you go down to ASMFC, how many years of data do you need before you go down there? So, this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, well, first, thank you. And then the short answer is we've actually started communications with the NOAA Science Center, Northeast Fisheries Science Center, on their recreational demand model. And so we've been communicating with them. They're very interested in our data. We're very interested in working with them. So we intended, and we'll have 2 years of data after this, which we think is fantastic. That's probably the window of data that the recreational demand model is operating under. So we are engaging with them immediately on this kind of data. We'll be actually saying this to them very shortly. How that works its way into these regulations, that recreational demand model, the data that we're showing is integral. It's essential. They're begging for this kind of data. So it's absolutely going to them. It will be used in management, and it should cascade through their recreational demand model to help influence the regulations.
Because my question is, when you're talking 10-1 with the discard rate, at what point are they down there going to go, hey guys, you guys got to do something here, because we're going to start getting penalized for throwing all these fish back.
They already know that too, though.
You're talking common sense, Joe.
Yeah.
So they do know that already by the NRIP data that it's that high. Our discard rate's extremely high. They know it.
And it's kind of like, hey guys, all we want is one little slot fish, so we don't have to throw a dead fish back, So, no, you do a good job, continue, and hopefully, at some point it's gonna break.
Thank you.
I guess it's, it's at some point in time, I guess I gotta fill this out, but filling out my federal form, I don't have enough hours in a day sometimes to do it all, so that's part of my problem with the party vote for hire sector. Do we have data back from when we did have the slot fish still? Do we still have correlation between then and now too? I mean,
We definitely have, so that while the tally.
I know we didn't have this, but
Yeah, we did have the tally form, but we still had our volunteer angler survey program. So yeah, we can definitely go back and we have all those records. So yeah, we can do a sort of similar analysis for the prior years, not too much trouble.
I'd be curious to see,
Discard rates?
yeah. I'd be curious to see going forward, say, hey, this is what happened when we did have a slot fish, and this is what's happening now that we don't have a slot fish,
Well, I think it showed if I remember Peter Clark said for summer flounder, it showed that we had a lot less discards with the slot fish.
We did, but can we put that in some ammunition for
Yeah,
going forward?
Yeah, well, I think what you're suggesting is a good idea. We'll
Quantify.
show this plot. We can update this plot to reflect sort of based on a year basis. And I would be surprised if we didn't see some patterns emerge from slot versus non-slot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Jeff mentioned one of the big differences would be our sample size. So we might not be able to slice out this ratio by vogue and latitude and so forth, but we can certainly look at that level for sure. Good suggestion. So,
And we might want to point out to these forms that if you can just do one a month would help.
yeah,
That would make sense.
You could get like maybe, once you I'd even come out in a boat and help you. Just let me know.
You got carte blanche, come on.
I'll come out and fill out a couple trips for you.
Yeah, and to Councilman Rush's point, it's not lost on us that people are filling out a lot of forms. Like, even within our volunteer angler survey program, we're giving you 3 options. Like already we did like, so we're asking to report to us. Brendan's asking to report. We have a separate program for the bonus program. If you fish for tile fish, there's a separate reporting for that. So it's not lost. There's all these different platforms. We're trying to bring in-house. We've had discussion. We're trying to bring all these on one umbrella. We're not there yet, but we're just trying to consolidate as much as we can. It's not lost on us. So yeah, anything you can do is great, but yeah, we.
Can you pull our Garfo information down?
We have access to the VTR data, but we don't incorporate that in these summaries.
Well, it might behoove you to incorporate that in for the for hire sector with the data because us filling out those forms would help you with these.
You report releases on the VTRs?
Oh, yeah.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Report by length or just total?
Totals.
Total number of fish.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can do catch then.
Yeah.
And believe me, if we fill it, I have to fill that out daily, so, so. Ed's got it. Ed, public comment.
For higher sector for these year, I mean, I can start handing these out for a guy to voluntarily do this. If you'd like to do this, I mean, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
We get bonus pack program. DTR is correct. I mean, maybe send them in, use the data. Just send them right into you. You have this hard data. These charter boats, my dock, most of them fishing in the bank. So they're not required to fill out VTRs. So this would really, I think, help you if you like. Saw this, like a couple boats from each area, reach out to us, and maybe we can help.
Yeah, tell them to do it once a week. Once a week would even help.
Just something that
Really good.
maybe, not this year.
Yeah,
I
no,
can do it now. I'm happy to do it.
Do it, because I did it and I got a couple charter boats to do it besides mine by giving them some forms.
yeah, we would definitely, we would welcome them immediately. No reason to wait till next year for sure. We can definitely do a better job, I think, of out, and by we, I mean me. I can do a better job of reaching out to the for hire sector and other anglers as well. We've had people, so Paul Hartel was really great last year. He reached out to us and asked for a couple of hundred more. He dropped off at bait and hatch.
I didn't bring nothing else there. What's it made?
We ain't out by 8, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Bacon injury, Bob.
That's a great suggestion.
Had a grant.
I'm gonna pull the Crosby move, fall down, gotta go.
But the charter captains, boat captains, you're busy running the boat and you wanted to make it easy. And like, you don't even have to report every fish, but like if you spend 10 minutes at the top of every hour and recorded every fish for 10 minutes. And that's, we don't.
Any kind of help I know for this program. You go back to what Joe said, I mean, it depends on, sometimes it's even more than that. Yeah, exactly, that's just an average. Anyway.
Hey, stick 'em.
What you may want to think about is if you could get these forms out to the fishing clubs here in New Jersey.
Pretty much.
I think it's a great way to get out to a mass number of anglers. I mean, I can certainly handle our club, but you need to reach out to JCMS. They
I
can
did
then,
last year.
get the information, get the forms out. A whole bunch of stuff down the coast.
We had one over here.
Is
the
this
other day.
available online form?
And I, unfortunately, speaking of it in the back, I was sitting back in the room, it would be nice if I had put like the QR code on the actual form so you could get to it from having one. So I'll make that adjustment, in the next week or two.
This QR code will take you to the
Great. Yeah, so there's a flyer back there. So that QR code goes into the general splash page, you can do the online, but also the paper, the tally stones as well. So, yeah, one of the shellfish folks puts that flyer together, which was fantastic. So, but that's the QR code where the action is.
I'm going to come in the dream edition. So I just sent that stuff information.
Oh, super.
Yeah, I'm going to create my This is a subcommittee.
Oh, that's super. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
All right, turn the lights on before I fall asleep.
Ready?
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting ready to pull Sidney Crosby
We
here.
are up to the regulatory update and the regulatory actions. I got nothing.
There's none. Old business. Good. Old business.
Business. So, this is just a reminder at the last council meeting, it was end of the night, kind of like now. So New Jersey DEP has put together a committee on ocean acidification, populating it with stakeholders as well as scientists. There is a request for one commercial, one recreational, to sit on this committee and help them with their deliberations. Anyone here is interested, certainly great. If you don't think it doesn't need to be someone from council, but if you have a name, send it to me, or at least send me their contact information, we can reach out.
I nominate
Eddie,
Ed.
you've been volunteered.
I nominate Ed.
I don't need names tonight, but just a reminder that I'm looking for names. And I'll probably send out an email actually requesting names, so start thinking about it.
So how often does this committee meet? Does anybody
I don't-
know?
The handouts from last meeting have it, and I can get that for you. I have it on my computer. I just don't have it.
I just was curious, yeah,
It's only a handful of times a year.
yeah.
But, yeah, so I certainly think it would be useful if folks, if we had representation. But I'm certainly not twisting anyone's arm. So, but, yeah, so
You
if you have.
don't get anyone, I'll go and do it, but I really prefer not to since I was with Rutgers, but I would do it if no one else volunteers from our council. No one else wants to do it here.
That sounds like a volunteer.
That sounds like a volunteer.
That's good with
I
me.
just can't interfere with my fishing. Morning.
Okay, so,
You can put me down.
um,
I know most of the people anyway, so
you want to represent both sectors, or
I am the at-large, so you can solve your whole problem.
There you go.
are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
There we
Thank
go.
you, Eleanor.
It's all Eleanor.
Okay, so that was just a reminder. Couple of handouts, handout number 11. These are the letters that were sent to the National Marine Fisheries Service regarding black sea bass flounder regulations. One from committee, one from council, one from the commissioner of DEP. And I think I sent you all information. Maybe Joe and Walt, you didn't get it because I only sent an email. Just for background, NIMS was behind schedule publishing the regulations for summer flounder and black sea bass. And they were even concerned that they weren't going to be implemented before the seasons started. Everyone had to jump up and down and wave their arms, and that magically made it happen. And so the two letters you have there is council and the commissioner jumping up and waving their arms. But everything is fixed now. Regulations are in place for both state and federal waters. But those are the letters. Any questions on that?
No, but you didn't have to tell, maybe Joe, but I mean, I actually do get other mail too, besides here, so. I already knew about it, so it was nothing.
Yes, well, I didn't send you the notification when.
No,
you
I
exactly
know,
put the-
I know, but I already knew it was ongoing.
All right, good. Handout number 12. So at the last meeting, again, Pat brought up the concern that he had heard over the winter about crab dredging. Can't remember where it was. But it was where crab dredging hadn't happened historically, and Pat was getting called about it and asked for a one-page summary of what the crab dredging regulations were, so that if in the future this happens again, he at least has some notes to speak from.
That's a one page.
We're gonna go put together a one-pager, and I realized that we already have a one-pager for every commercial species. We already give you the regulation, the recreational regulations. I don't know why we've never given you the commercial summary. So handout number 12 is a one-pager for every species and gear that we manage commercially. So hopefully I remember to do it again. Next year, we update it every year, obviously. And so I'll try to remember. If I don't remember,
I'll remind you,
Thank you.
Jeff. I
That's-
download this every year and put it on my boat.
yeah,
This is super helpful.
we're talking about when we hand out, or when we sell the licenses.
That'd be good to have, yeah.
They weren't ready, I think, when I was there, but I mean, yeah, I usually download this, print it, and this is really helpful.
It's not
Thank you.
100%, but it's pretty darn.
It's got a lot of
Take the
information.
guideline.
Got a lot.
Yeah,
It's got everything you need in
My
it.
first go-to.
Did you email this to us?
But email it. Yes,
She
just
did,
last
she
night.
did.
This was.
I didn't see it. Okay,
It's
good.
just, it was just on the supplement.
My computer, thanks.
So there's that. And if it doesn't fill your need.
No, that's
For dredging.
that's 100% what I need.
Okay.
Thank you.
Or I guess anyone, if you have other requests, any of those in there, let us know. We'll provide that separately, but we do that every year, so try to remember here every year. Handout number 13, this is, I referred to this earlier when Bob brought up the dredging projects. I don't remember if it was the November meeting or the January meeting, staff had said that we will put together a list of all of the dredging and sand mining projects that are occurring or have occurred off the coast recently. Handout 13 is all of the maintenance dredging projects that have happened that Marine Fisheries has commented on. I don't know if it's all of them that have happened, but they're all the ones that we've received and been able to comment on. Maintenance dredging projects off of New Jersey. I don't know the details, but there's the list. If you have questions, let me know. We can get.
Yeah, where's dredge hole number 61 at?
Well, where's,
See?
well, here, they're saying Cape May, they're dredging between two water markers, 446 to 457. Where's that?
Yeah, can you get us something?
No, it's
Because-
Grashy Sound, I think.
Yeah, but Joe,
Is
do
it-
you know where
Yeah.
dredge hole number 61 is? Is there a hole in the bay that we're gonna
No
fill?
clue.
No, me either.
Yeah.
No,
I don't mean to keep you more, but we actually need something that tells us where stuff is.
Where's that?
Is that the dog?
one is
hole?
that?
That's I
You know
don't
what I
know.
mean? You know,
I
like,
don't know.
yeah,
Which project?
Where in here? Where is it? What page?
Page 2.
yeah,
Page 2.
I saw that.
Ocean County, Cape May. Where's
It
Cape?
involves multiple townships and it does kind of tell you where it's at. But
Oh,
it
there it
says
is, dredge hole.
some of
61.
the sand
I think
and
it's
clay is
there.
gonna be pumped into dredge hole number 61
Placement's right.
located in Barnegat Bay.
You know
Where's
what-
that? And it's supposed to restore the environment. I never really knew that to happen before, but
All right.
it'd be interesting.
Well, most of you can go to the link.
No.
Check the additional information.
No.
All right, we'll dig more into that.
Thank you.
Also does not include, well, I think we know where the sand borrow site are, because again, those were established in like 1997, so. Those are where they are, when they're fishing, when they are operating there. I don't know how we could get, it'll take some more digging, because it might be on each of the regional websites, but I don't know how often they update those or whether they advertise when they're working or not. Kevin, I know you say you see them out there all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to do notice to mariners, right? I mean, but that's after they already start. There'd be a notice to mariners. But yeah.
I mean, some of this stuff, it's like,
But-
there's an EIS on file somewhere that's probably been there for years.
Yeah,
I mean, they didn't just come out and say, we're gonna spend money on dredging.
yeah. I remember years ago when this was a totally different staff, people came over to me with all the sand, every good fishing sand lump had a circle around it. And they asked me about, Love Ladies lump, Brant Beach lump, Harvey Cedars, all of them were circled up. And I was like, whoa, but the borrowing has been northeast of the Harvey Cedars lump, right next to it. And they've been borrowing there for years and years. And I can't believe there's still sand there. But to be honest with you, but I think that's about shot. So I think it's
They're
gonna,
looking for new areas.
yeah, so,
You'll be
yeah.
getting a survey about that early next year.
okay, thanks, yeah. We'll certainly.
Actually, Eleanor. Cape May Harbor.
That's Cape May Harbor.
Hmm.
Because there's a lot of other areas in the coastal that are like,
Oh,
So I'll do some more digging,
Been,
see if I can find more information.
blood,
Thank you.
blood
Thank
comes
you,
out.
Jeff.
I was.
You know how I
forced
usually
to-
know they're coming, Jeff? They set up in town. I see them on the street end. And you see the pipes and here comes all the goodies, and then, that's usually when I'll go, okay, here they come. There's no outreach. Eddie and I last, we had a dredge company that's had a pipe right across the channel to leave the harbor. People were hitting a steel pipe boats were slamming this pipe in front of the Coast Guard station. Nobody's saying nothing. If a boat like a twin screw boat had hit it, they would have wiped their wheels off. Thankfully, the first people that hit it had heels. I mean, so this is what these people do. They show up and, you don't want to, you want to be helpful or whatever, or work with these guys, but sometimes they just show up and start doing stuff and you're like, whoa, it's pretty freaky. So I think, I've always complained that there's like zero outreach, when these outfits come. I mean, we don't know. They could come right into Viking Village and at least say something to us, and the office is there. We're a big commercial fishing dock. We don't know. I mean, when the curry tuck comes, at least we see the vessel, but they don't set up and put pipes and unmarked anchor balls and all this equipment out, right? Sometimes we'll go down the beach and they have round spheres that are on, and there'll be a light on there. It looks like you'd put on your Christmas tree, maybe, you can't see it.
Yeah.
And they're round. They're not even got a radar reflector on them. So that there's no radar signals. Horrible. So if you're not really good with your radar and know those things, I'm surprised there's not a lot of trouble, to be honest with you. And I've always said that I think we need way better outreach. And this doesn't happen here. I've seen it in Delaware, other places where there's just steel stuff. The New Jersey trawl one day was coming down the beach. It was the Seawolf. And I don't know who was running it. I don't really know the guy. Said, stop now. You're about to slam into a submerged pipe. He's like, whoa. And then all of a sudden he saw the anchor balls and he would have left the whole thing there. The doors, the net, everything would have been on the pipe. It would have been a complete shutdown of the whole trawl survey, because there's no outreach. There's no anything. The stuff just shows up. And as a mariner and a navigator that, you're like, how does this happen? It'd be like people digging a hole in the road and not having a road crew there. You just don't even know it's there. So I think, at some point I'd like to see, a little better communication with the dredge, whether it's Great Lakes or the Army Corps or whoever. They need to start doing, and they'll say, well, we do a notice to mariners, but nobody looks at that every day. Nobody that's working daily party, any that's really looking at that, and just a little outreach or a notice to the major docks or to you guys that we could do an email blast like, hey, they're coming. Keep your eyes peeled, right? Just awareness is really all I'm asking for. But I've always had a real pet peeve with all that, be honest with you.
Okay, so yeah, we'll do a little bit more digging on that. Handout number 14 is, you can thank Dr. Donnelly for updating the committee lists. So there they are with our reduced membership. Pat, I don't know if you want to speak to those at all.
Listen, if you're looking at something and you really don't want to be on something, or there's something you wanted to be on, I'll at least give you my reasons why I have people on different things. There's probably going to be another couple of committees that are going to come up shortly. And probably a couple on there that I don't think there's much we can really get rid of, but
no,
but until, as long as we're 9, I'm going to be, putting a lot on your backs. Because, we started today that we really need striped bass. We know we're going to need TOG. We need executive committee. We need a bunch of stuff to keep moving here. And still stay on target with some of the other issues that we've had. So reach out to me if you have a request or you don't want to be on something, we'll go from there. It's fluid.
Yeah, this is a living document always, we know that. But there they are. And then the last thing that I have under old business is to talk about which committees we want to hold. Striped bass, sounds like that's a relatively high priority. And then the same list that we've been hearing for the last couple of meetings, the executive committee has some leftover work. The reef committee to talk about what we would do if we created a new reef, like access for both sectors. Spot and croaker, Heather gave an update today that the Cyanids board is considering new de minimis requirements. We have been exceeding de minimis, but we are still being allowed to operate under de minimis, but we probably should revisit that, so we might want to talk with them. Sheep's head regulations, I know they're just kind of floating in the ether. At some point, we need to get there. And then at the last committee, or last council meeting, we talked about non-traditional bait, like the worms and stuff like that. Pat and I talked offline. Pat, I don't want to steal your thunder, but we talked offline, maybe, or I guess at the last committee meeting, we talked about splitting non-traditional into finfish and bait. For, because they're relatively different topics. Pat and I were talking about maybe the bait can go to the regulations committee, which is already a standing committee, in terms of, because that's really what we're gonna be doing is regulations for these non-targets, or well, they're obviously target if you're targeting for bait, but it's not a consumption type fishery.
But I know non-traditional is trying to work hard on sheep's head. And I want them to keep their focus there. And we'll find another committee that can look at bait and,
And I think a lot of the bait, Mr. Chair, is done with pots or a little net, or, where it's more of a gear oriented approach, so I think, yeah, it makes sense to.
Yeah, let's keep it-
separate. Yeah, I think that was a good idea.
yeah.
So let's just, some of those baits fall under the mid-Atlantic, but it's in state waters, but do we still have to abide by the mid-Atlantic? Because they have all those bait fish that you
I
can't
guess
harvest.
the ones that have been coming up, I plug them under non-traditional, but it's like old crabs and green crabs
Silver
and bloodworms and things like that, which none of which are managed anywhere. It's just people are out now looking for new bait types and, hey, I'm gonna do it myself kind of thing. And if it's personal use, it's one thing, but when you see people carrying away,
Big
coolers full of
Shiners.
China and stuff like that.
It's not a good thing.
That's different, right? So, yeah, so
Become the commercial.
it sounds like maybe the right committee would be the appropriate place to put that.
I think it is.
Yeah, because I think
Okay.
that's what you're gonna have to make regulations.
So,
Jeff, on the artificial reefs, we still operate under an artificial reef plan, right?
correct, yep,
Okay.
It hasn't changed.
yep. Just to reiterate, we've got striped bass, executive committee, reef, spot croaker, sheep's head, or non-traditional, and now the regs. So that's a lot. How do we want to prioritize those?
I know we need executive committee to help get us through some of the other stuff. In terms of, if we'd like to be, well, I feel like I'd like to be prepared that if striped bass is something we want to have a discussion with somebody with in the fall, the striped bass committee ought to be meeting sooner than later.
We can, I can make that. Or you're around the next couple months? Yes. Okay. We'll
Maybe
make that
not
happen
now.
before July.
I'm hoping that Joe's speech is not an annual event.
This is 4 years.
So that's an annual, that's an annual event. So, yeah, I would hope that we don't just schedule it every year knowing it's, well, let's do something.
Yes, we can start it.
Yeah. So executive striped bass.
Mhm.
Um,
The leftovers were reef, spot and croaker, sheep's head, and regs.
Well, sheep's head, there's really nothing,
Sheep's
there's no regs coming down, right?
So they work on the plan,
Yeah.
right?
There is no.
Right,
But they
there's no
put the
plan.
Data on sheep's
Yeah.
head, right?
That's the way I
I
was
thought
told.
you, when we had our,
No.
they were gonna collect a lot of information on
Not even on the
what
radar.
our state's regs were and all. We had our committee meeting, which,
Oh, I thought, no, we've done that.
yeah, that's, I mean, yeah, so that was part of what, yeah, we needed. So I don't know. Then I thought we were gonna start working on a management plan or something.
Well, sheep's
right?
head's not even on the radar yet, so.
Well, it has to be though.
Well, I
Do you
mean,
know how many big fish people are keeping now? They're not just taking one or two.
oh, if that's something that they need to continue to dialogue on, make that the third priority, and then we'll go from there.
Okay,
Because TOG is not gonna be till the fall,
right.
until
And croaker,
probably after our, September meeting.
and croakers later too, right?
Croaker, right, they're just starting, oh, So, yeah, so they, the work group or the PDT came up with some ideas. But the board said, let's now kick it to each of the individual species under the cyanids board, so spot croaker, red drum. And let each committee or each species deal with them independently. And yeah, so spot and croaker are coming up in 26, 27, or 27, 28. So we have some time, but yeah, something to keep on moving on. Okay, so I've got striped bass, executive committee, and sheepshead. Okay. We'll try and get all three of those in before July. That's all the old business I have. I don't know if council has any.
Seeing none.
On to new business. I've got no new business that we haven't covered already. That's all. Oh, so sorry, one more. Under public comment, I kept this here just because it's. Well, anyway, we have one email that came in, requesting some consideration about striped bass regulations. And so that's there for your consideration. If you want to kick it to the committee, it sounds like they'll be meeting soon, or, just do with it as you will. So you want us to bring it up at the committee meeting?
Sure. We'll do
Okay.
that.
I'll make sure Brenda gets a copy. And that's all I've got. The next meeting is July 9th at the Galloway Library.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Thank you.
Way to go.